time is actually passing by, that you have kind of downtime. Like this is meant to be a real time campaign. So, life isn't always going to be adventuring because we're not going to play this daily. Do you think you would be trying to pay off Killraven and end the debt? Or are you going to continue to try to like cycle this debt and kind of like keep uh essentially, I'm going to use in a sort of negative connotation, but under their finger?
Yeah, so I was thinking, because Briff had told Dem about how he had basically borrowed some money and gone on like a gambling, um, made some money gambling, and I think Dem would be the type to press his luck like that. So he would be, he'd want to pay off Killraven like for the 100 gold that he owes, but then maybe, um, like essentially borrowed some more with the idea of maybe trying to win enough gambling that he could pay that next loan back and have some profit as well.
Gotcha. So I think we'll do a pretty similar thing. I think right now Dem has a sizable collection of like items and things that you've found. And I guess the real question is if you go to your contact in the Kill Ravens, and basically offer something, or offer a deal. Um, in many ways, I don't want it to sound like Briff isn't necessarily in a dangerous spot. As far as I'm concerned, as an NPC, he's already lost all of his money, so he has nothing to show for working for Killraven, except for maybe actually testing a role to even see, like, has he survived? Has he gotten himself killed because he's tempting fate? That's kind of the danger zone in my perspective for him as an NPC, is because he's essentially tempting fate each time. But the standard would be to basically say he's lost everything and is usually still at square one.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so I just rolled a 4 to actually see how he's doing. So I would say put it kind of at that idea. Like when you go to find him, last time he was up a little bit, he might look to you and kind of ask, like, do you have another venture where he might be able to actually get his head above water? And again, kind of as a reminder to you, you don't necessarily have to pick up on this from Dem's perspective, but Briff understands, and like most addicts, can't really act on the fact that this is a bad situation he's in. And he basically sees like delving, even though it's risking his life in a different way, is sort of a different way of getting out from under this. So maybe at some point he's coming to you and he needs to make those like 30 or 50 gold to pay off the debt that he lost in poker the night before and would owe to his contact in the Killraven Crime League. So that's kind of where he sits. You are welcome to, if you'd like to try to do a pretty simple gamble. It's not going to be anything complicated. It's going to put you at some dice and kind of see, like in a single roll, how much can you kind of come up on that roll. So if you want to wager amount that you have with Dem, what do you have in mind, gold wise, or are you trying to like wager something that's actual treasure? What would you be gambling prior to paying off your debt, or would you like to try to pay off your debt first? What do you think is the higher priority there?
Probably paying off the debt. I mean, yeah, Dem knows enough that being kind of behind in payments to someone like Killraven, the Killraven Crime League is probably not a good thing. So he would be, um, yeah, he would want to pay that off first. I haven't been, I meant to I didn't keep great track of kind of what he earned the last session. I know we got a bunch of like rat tails and things like that. Um,
Listen, I think the rat tails are 3 gold apiece.
yeah, 3 crowns, I think you said, or whatever whatever the
Yeah,
gold is.
yeah. 3 gold lions is
Lions,
the
right?
golden piece. Um, yeah, I actually looked at it so I could try to use the right terminology for Tolis. I think um the platinums are called crowns. I think the lions are thrones. Um, silvers are shinies, and then coppers are pennies. Is kind of the lingo that you'll often get like in town. Um, so your initial deal with like your contact is essentially Sinway Killraven. I think over time you would be able to learn enough that the Killraven Crime League is a group of criminals. When you hear someone name themselves Killraven, it is probably more a question of are they actually a part of this group? Is this somebody who's trying to bank on it? When you hear somebody name themselves Killraven and they disappear, you might start to figure out that they weren't actually a part of this crime league. So that's one thing that we can kind of say in the 2 months. You start to kind of pick up like these little bits of, somebody trying to swindle you at poker, saying they're, whatever, Killraven, and then all of a sudden they disappear within 2 or 3 days, and you're like, yeah, I thought not. But you do have your contact Sinway from the guild district that you met with Briff. I think your first deal was you got 50 gold. You owed 100 gold in a week, 150 gold in 2 weeks. Um, and then I put or 30% up to 150 gold. I think that was saying or 30% of what you took. So that was kind of your first deal. And I think the second deal was basically that you paid him off with it was a vial of speed and a jewelry box. And I'm not sure how much you got in return. I feel like you just kind of kept everything, and you would owe 100 gold in 2 weeks from then. So theoretically, um, you could cash in any of the tails that you got for those 3 gold thrones apiece. And kind of just like approaching Killraven, um, you would simply have kind of the option to offer what you would. Do you think you would push it to the 2 weeks? It's kind of weird because if you're not going to gamble before you pay it off, there's no reason to push it off. So we can kind of assume this is sometime during like August, essentially. Um, but you do have kind of any of the potential magic items that you have, any actual coin that you would have right now on Dem to offer.
Yeah, so I think you would have, uh, sold or turned in the tails for the coin. He still has, or he still would have had, I think, 18 golds worth of the bar that he'd originally gotten that he may have, like in the intervening time, maybe like broken down, probably like bought some stuff, with it, but gotten like some coin back, essentially, like turning it into more
Gotcha.
liquid
That was a
coin.
trade bar, right?
Right. Yep. Yep.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, I feel like he got a decent number of tails, but I don't think enough that it would have covered the full 100. So I feel like maybe he would have gambled to make up some of the difference, try to get to that 100, before returning to Sinway to pay back the 100.
Gotcha. So you would try to gamble. How much do you think you are going to kind of like put down to gamble?
Probably something like 25 gold sounds sounds about right. Like he got like a fair number of tails, and with the trade bar, it wouldn't be super short, but yeah, maybe like 25 gold.
Gotcha. Is your intention to play a legitimate game, or are you trying to cheat?
I think in this case, knowing that he has to, knowing that he has this kind of debt hanging over him, he would be more likely to cheat to try to better his odds of making enough to pay back.
All right, so here's what we can do. I just sent you a link to the Owlbear Rodeo again. You're welcome to come into that right now and roll, or we can roll with Avray in Discord. Either will work for me. Okay, I see you're already in. So what we'll do is we're going to roll D100s. If you beat my D100 roll, the difference is how much you'll profit off that 25 gold. Your cheating will be. I feel like we could say a D20 added to your percentile, but it's going to be a sleight of hand versus a perception check. If I catch you cheating, you're pretty much going to lose your bank. So I think that gives you sufficient grounds that it could be entirely profitable and is still sufficiently dangerous.
Yeah, that works for me.
So I would say let's just go for D100s.
Ooh, 24 only for me.
Looking at a 22, that's pretty stable. Yeah, so a 22. So you're going to end up with a pretty small percentage here. But again, you said you intended on cheating, so I would say now roll a D20. There's no reason to clear it because You're essentially going to modify that anyways. So you're adding a D20 to that 24. So you'll have a 33. So there's still a 10% profit. But this is where I need a sleight of hand from Dem, and should have somebody with a moderate perception, but I'm gonna say maybe like I think I gotta go with approximately half your bonus. What is your sleight of hand bonus?
Sleight of hand is +5.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna take a +2 on my D20, and you can have your +5 on the same on a D20 roll. So all you have to do is beat what I'm about to roll. I'm looking at a 13. Might go back
So
to 1.
be a 15 for me.
Meets beats. So we're about to have a tie because I'm taking the 2. I got a 13. Um, what would that be? Meets beats. You trying to beat my perception? I think that's a sufficient way to look at it. It might normally be a little bit opposite because the perception might be to beat the sleight of hand. But I would say you can get away with basically like with that gamble, you're going to walk away with an extra 10%. So you're looking at about 28 gold. So that's kind of your like take over those 2 weeks before you have to meet with Killraven. And you kind of stretch that time. You made essentially 3 gold from it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think between that, so that 28 gold, the 18 gold, probably, after he used it to buy some stuff, maybe call it like 15 left in actual coin. And then the rat tails, he should have enough to pay back the 100.
Gotcha. But this takes me back to, are you actually intending to end that debt?
So I think he's at that point going to roll it over, kind of like with the idea that um, he's going to try to essentially gamble and press his luck and maybe try and if he can get in a hot streak using this borrowed money, then pay back the next amount of debt, but also have some more left over for himself.
Gotcha. So this time around, I think what we'll do is we'll basically, um, I think roughly what I offered, where you saved kind of 50% of what you would have paid, or like maybe like two-thirds of it, whatever. I should have written down what I valued that jewelry box and the vial of speed for in that original notes, but I would say normally I'm offering about 40% when you're like selling something to a merchant kind of thing. It's often a reduced price because they have to make theirs. So I have a feeling what we'll kind of go for here is you can pay off Killraven at that time, not necessarily ending the relationship, though. This is simply because we have another month and a half intervening here, and we'll take out a new debt essentially today, which gives you time to roll it over in the next week here. So what we'll have you do is kind of you pay off that 100 gold debt. You can take out another like 60, or you could take out like another 75 gold in debt, which you would owe in 2 weeks. As let's say if you do 60, you'd owe 100. If you do 75, you'd owe like 120. Kind of
I
something
think,
on those lines with the same like 2 week extension kind of thing.
yeah, I think Dalton would press his luck, so go for the 75, owing 120 in a couple weeks.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I've got that noted down there. And let's see, potentially investigating a little bit more about the priest and the woman that you saved. Are you thinking about like going to them and actually having discussions with the woman and the priest? Are you trying to question others like around them? What do you think that would be? What do you think that would entail, kind of gathering information there?
Yeah, so it would be more of a kind of like passive activity. So he wouldn't be questioning them directly, and he wouldn't even necessarily be asking like pointed questions of um of others. He'd almost be kind of like if there are like a tavern or like a gambling hall or an inn or something near the temple, he would be thinking, maybe he would pick up some rumors. So he'd kind of just be kind of like putting his ear to the ground, but not trying to be inconspicuous, not wanting to raise any potential like ruffle any feathers or raise any potential issues. So be very very passive kind of.
Gotcha. So what about you could do um let's go for an investigation, but with your charisma bonus. Do you have proficiency in well, I guess you're a bard, so you probably have the jack of all trades. No, too low level for that.
Yeah, he's still level 1, so I don't think he gets that yet. So with charisma would be a +3. Investigation is a straight roll, so it'd just be +3 to this.
Gotcha.
Looks like just an 8 there.
Um I'd say on something like that, you're not necessarily going to pick up a lot of like particular information. Maybe it's just learning a little bit more that there's from the perspective of the mundane people who kind of inhabit these lands, from the people who were actually like, what's it, the dirt of the earth? I feel like that's the wrong way of saying that expression, but
Salt of
like
the earth. Yeah.
salt of the earth. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Um, you've got a lot of people who have that kind of disdain for the actual kind of clergy, and how often someone purporting to live like this virtuous life and sort of the importance therein often breaks the very rules that they will often like be selling to you. And I think it'll be kind of that sort of um almost negative, kind of like disdainful things that you'll kind of pick up. And it's almost just from like migrating your like drinking spots to like the Temple District and like near the North Market, trying to stay close to where you might pick up on these things. And speaking with the right people, you just kind of come across this feeling where a lot of people have negative things to say. You don't pick up things in particular about Kaijin, and I feel like I went to name him at some point. I found the actual quest that I was initially thinking of when I had them, and then I decided not to make it those two and make it a different quest. So I don't actually have a name for the priest right now, but I should name him before we move on. But do you have any thoughts with just kind of that where I feel like 8 might be a little bit low? So does that sound kind of in line? Would you have any follow up to kind of go further?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. It's kind of, yeah, just like kind of general rumblings, like, do as I say, not as I do, sort of, yeah, hypocrisy, like people at a tavern, like growing about like politicians and sort of, yeah, nothing specific, but like, um,
Yeah, it's not groundbreaking, but it probably starts to confirm what you all already probably had, like kind of almost like musings of. Musing might be the wrong idea, but like you guys already had a kind of a sense that there seemed like maybe a little bit too much connection between these two, for what you would have expected.
yeah, maybe like just enough to suggest that, I'm not, not crazy. Like there is maybe something there worth investigating more, even if I haven't learned, anything specific.
And we're gonna go with his name is Ambroshi. So, um, what's the other things that you were thinking of? I feel like that kind of taps into most of what you would have been doing with your downtime.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. Yep. I mean, I guess I don't know if because I think you had mentioned that like we found the note about the like if we had gone back, like if Dalton, Dem, and Briff had gone back to kind of where they first went delving, they found the note about the guild. So maybe he would have tried to kind of like uh, find out about that, um, or to again like tie Dem into like the kind of the Delvers Guild kind of that you're um, kind of bringing
So,
everyone towards.
one of the things I had in mind is that while your parents do kind of approach you, that they've not heard from your uncle, and again, this is kind of like that loosely like child. It's a friend of the family that you know is your uncle. Your uncle Neener is or has kind of gone missing. They've not heard from him for some time, and it's kind of like one of those like nagging things where you like go home and your mom or your dad like talk to you about how you're never doing anything of value and you're always kind of like dicking off drinking or you're going out gambling. Why don't you go do something useful? Because they're so busy. Go check on your uncle. And it's kind of like that level of like a nagging sort of like, I'm just gonna do this to shut you up kind of feeling, perhaps. But they kind of bring that up to you. And part of what I wanted to there and offer was kind of this idea where at this point, theoretically, you would have time with Kalimtas Erling is the contact with the Twin Star Marauders. And that would be the guild sort of kind of moving forward. Um, where you have this person who runs a tavern inside of the Warrens. They are a point of contact where you could certainly go and find Briff and ask him to go with you, and basically split your earnings with Briff. You could go to Midtown and Delver Square and hire help and have somebody go with you, as like on levels like that, or you could actually go to Kalimtas and find somebody within the guild, and basically hire somebody along those lines to kind of investigate with you. But on some level, that's kind of like what that contact is for you at this point. Um, I don't think we're quite there yet because I do want to kind of approach actually going to see your uncle first, um, and kind of like actually approaching his house and getting a little bit of the story as to sort of what I have in mind here. So the initial thought was to place the entire location at his house. And I've kind of twisted it a little bit to where you're going into a neighborhood that kind of like borders upon the Warrens. And again, the Warrens are strictly dangerous, not necessarily because they have more crime or more severe crime than the rest of Tolis, but because it's almost like the crime in Brazil is like children. It's one of those things that the guards don't go to the Warrens because it's a different kind of danger. Like, you have to start to suspect everybody when you go into the Warrens. You have to be ready to essentially fight off children. You don't know whether somebody's going to walk up to you and beg for something, whether they're going to shank you in your kidney and you're going to bleed out alone in the street. So that's kind of like the first thought of, like, before you even go to check on your uncle, are you going to kind of get somebody to go with you? But part of what I had in mind was sort of the idea that you would be maybe alongside. Let me kind of bring this up. It's got to be on the big map, actually, because I've got the Warrens isolated from the guild district. So I kind of had the idea maybe that we actually place him essentially like along and near the Warrens, and basically understand kind of like if you take the area between the Nared and the Warrens, there's one little block that's kind of south of the Kings River, east of the Nared, which is one of the green spaces. I think that's actually one of the Elven spaces, and then west northwest of the Warrens. You kind of see what I'm looking at there? I guess let me circle it here.
I think so. Yep, I see the Narid, and the Warrens there. So, yep, yeah, I think I know. Kind of, yep.
So if we kind of like look at it as like that's sort of the area where there's been um killing, disappearances, kind of like the guard themselves, the town guard or city guard, are a little bit more active over here. The Midtown, no, that is still Guild District. The Guild District has like their own like guard post, but it's quite far away from this location. So it's one of those things where they can be more active there, just having patrols going by. But there's not actually like a guard post there that's terribly close. And there seems to be a serial killer, or at least there's rumors happening that you can kind of pick up around town. And it's what's worrying your parents is basically this. We've not heard from Ninor for some time. People are talking about a serial killer in this area. And I basically was thinking, like, if we look at that and kind of like place his house on the east side of that block, but up against the street that crosses to the Warrens and kind of this criminal location. It's not terribly far from, I think, where we place your kind of family was almost towards like the Gilder's Gate in kind of that like southeastern area of the Guildsman district. So it's not terribly far, but like your mother works off in the River district, your father is a Gilder. Both of them, it's like they just kind of struggle to find that time, and they want to send you there. So, kind of first thought, would you be going alone? Do you think you would? I think we often have Briff was someone who I think the two of you often had like this region where you were often like drinking and gambling almost between those 2 points. Do you think you would go find him? Do you think you're going to go look in Delver Square to hire a Delver or an adventurer to kind of come with you? Or do you think you would go find Kalimtas and do something similar? What do you think you would go to do in regards to like going to find your uncle in what is potentially a serial killer uh, killing zone?
Yeah, so I think Dan would probably be like initially a little, kind of, oh, you're worrying about nothing kind of thing. I'm sure he's fine. But then like, his parents kind of keep nagging him. He's like, all right, I'll go look, I'll go, see what's going on, go find him. Um, so I think for something like this, he would probably, and I think Briff is kind of from the same kind of general area that he is. Um, so I think he would probably, rather than going to like Kelimtar, um, I think he would just, yeah, probably like pick up Briff and just be like, all right, my parents want to do this. I'm sure it's nothing, but you know, uh,
Gotcha. So it's more like going to like check in on your uncle with your friend, like you're like just hanging out together, and he's just with you at that point, and it's like, hey, I gotta stop off at my uncle's.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. So roll a perception here for me. While you're doing that, part of what I am kind of looking to do with the sidekicks in this setting, because you guys are in a city, is more or less have them other adventurers that you guys can hire like on a one-to-one basis and have them just as episodic as not. So part of the question isn't necessarily like, do you want to go with somebody but currently, do you want your sidekick to be basically a front man, like a fighter, to stand before you? What is your bonus on that six?
That is a flat six.
Gotcha. So not terribly anything interesting happening here. You kind of make your way, find Briff with a little bit of time wasted. You end up getting to the point where you're kind of like walking around a more or less main thoroughfare. There's crazy stuff that happens at times where you see somebody like bump into somebody else and kind of run off into the alleys, and you're like pretty sure that person just pickpocketed the other person. I'm glad it wasn't me. Um, that kind of thing, like just walking through a city. Pretty normal kind of city stuff to be worried about is recognizing it's like constant threat to your personage, no matter how mundane things go. But you can make your way into the Guildsman district. You can make your way to your uncle's house and eventually kind of find the house seems shut up. What do you have in mind if you start to approach this location and looking for your uncle?
Yeah, so I
Oh, did
think
I
like,
lie? Is it Midtown? I think that location is supposed to be Midtown. So, psych, your uncle lives in Midtown.
No worries. I mean, I feel like it's probably not like a super like really hard delineation. So it's kind of like the different districts kind of bleed into each other a little bit at the edges. I do think Dem probably having kind of grown up here and kind of probably being aware of the some of the dangers of the Warrens would probably take some precautions in the sense of like I think in the Forgotten Realms it's called like a mask's purse where he essentially like kind of keeps an extra pouch that you know like a pickpocket might go for that doesn't actually have like much money in it, whereas he's trying to kind of hide his actual coin, more almost like in a shoulder pocket
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I think on a daily basis, you would almost have three different purses. You want to have one that you often don't take with you, that you keep in like your most secure location. You would have one that is essentially like copper, couple of silver. That serves most day to day. This is where like actually the level of niceties, your life quality kind of comes in. Where like if you're just kind of middle of the ground, I think you spend like 2 silver a day kind of thing. That's the kind of thing where that's what you would probably keep in that purse is like 2 or 3 silver, 10 copper and 2 silver, or like 15 copper, 2 silver, something along that lines where if somebody steals your purse, it's only what you intended to spend that day anyways. So it's probably not that rough. And then like, yeah, like the third purse, I think you were saying like almost under your armpit, or kind of like with people when they go to like Europe and they've got like their passport in this like belt pack that goes like into their pants, or like you know the extra little level of like when my brother was in Spain, he wore shorts under his pants and would put his wallet into the gym shorts, and then you would have pants over it. And it was one of the things where people would like come up to you and you'd feel them like tapping around where people keep your wallet. And when they feel like the wallet in your pants, all of a sudden they start pulling on your pants and they're like trying to run away, and they're stifled by the fact that you have technically the pocket inside of that pair. So you almost always have that second wallet that has like coin that you want on you, perhaps in the sake of a gambler, all of your coin in case you hope to make all of your money doubled that day. But yeah, you probably have 2 or 3 purses like that. Um,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's yeah. Um, but so approaching the house, and when you say kind of like looking like it's kind of boarded up, um,
Not necessarily boarded up, so this is going to be like a nicer location in that it's not strictly in the Warrens. But let's say if it's like one of these little spots, like right off of Bad Luck Lane, with Salt Street behind it, and the Warrens on the other side of Salt Street of it. Um, so yeah, I mean, just getting a better look at the actual names in this district or in this little spot, one is called Warren Avenue. The other one is Bad Luck Lane. I think they recognize that this is like the worst location to be in Midtown. But he's got a nicer house in that it's not one of these places that's like in the Warrens. But you can also tell from the location that uh like there's no smoke coming from the chimney. If you're going kind of like late afternoon, there's no like seemingly candles or anything lit in any of the windows. It's that kind of boarded up. It's not, it's like shut up because nobody seems to be using it right now, more than anything else. So you can go knock, you could go walk in like perhaps you might have done in the past, or you could kind of go there and essentially like break in. You could check to see if the doors are unlocked. It just kind of has this feeling of being unused at present.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think again, like Dem thinking, it's probably nothing. Maybe he's, I don't know, gone off on a bender or something like that, or just, his parents are worrying him over nothing. I think his first instinct would just to be maybe note that, oh, okay, it seems like a little unused, but I think his first instinct was still to be probably just go to the front door and kind of like knock and be like, Uncle, you in there, kind of thing.
Gotcha. Let me just get a charisma performance check.
And performance that would be +5.
That'll be sufficient. Yeah, I was gonna say. 17 is definitely high enough to satisfy what I'm looking for here. So yeah, I think as you kind of knock, I kind of call for your uncle. Uh, you hear in response what sounds enough like your uncle's voice. It seems weak. It seems strained. Um, Probably the type of thing where you might take it to like, is he ill? Is he just far away and he can't get to the door? Probably enough concern that um, waiting to be let in is not worth it. Either like check the door to see if it's unlocked and if you can make your way in, or if you have a means of breaking in, it might be worthy of that. So there's like a certain level of he's responding to you, doesn't feel threatened, but maybe he's ill and could use assistance.
Yeah, so I think yeah, so Dem will kind of like hearing that he's gonna call like we're coming in, all right, like coming in, and yeah, he doesn't really have a way to kind of uh like jimmy the door or anything like that, so he's going to be like um almost like thinking like apology in advance. He's gonna essentially try to kind of like break his way through.
Gotcha, just like shoulder to the door, try to break in.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's thinking that before actually trying the door to see if it's unlocked.
uh
It's
Yeah,
perfectly
he's not the
acceptable.
smartest. Yeah, he's not the smartest. So thinking. Yeah, he's not even. Yeah, he's not thinking. Oh, maybe it's unlocked first. No, he's just gonna try to like barrel through.
Do you want to try solo, or is Brifford helping you?
I think he tries solo first.
Gotcha. Let me just get a strength athletics from you. I think your strength
Ooh,
is -1.
yeah,
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Briff is gonna watch you bounce off of the door and you like stumble to the ground.
Yeah. So he kind of like picks himself up, probably like kind of rubbing his shoulder, and at that point he might
Uh,
be like trying to
Maybe a
actually
bit of
try the door
teamwork.
handle.
Okay, okay, you're gonna go for the door handle. Let me just get a sleight of hand from you. Let me see, just kind of a die roll here to see. I like putting things to the dice.
20 total.
Yeah, I'd say you kind of like take the moment to actually do it. Little bit of a bruised ego, and you're just like, oh shit, door's unlocked, and you just kind of like shimmy it a little bit. It's like maybe a little bit like stuck in the door, but it's kind of that little bit of like a little bit of finesse. The door opens before you, and you can kind of walk in.
Yeah, he'd be like kind of looking back at Briff, like, yeah, the door sticks, trying to like kind of play off his failed attempt to kind of smash it down. Um, it's like, yeah, gotta, yeah,
So you can move through the house. This is again kind of like this feeling like it's chilled in here. It is winter time. You are in kind of like the more northern side of Pramol. So this is kind of probably relatively similar weather to like this is a solid fall like time of year here. And you can kind of confirm more. Maybe like you're entering into the kitchen, and there's like a few more rooms, 2 stories to the house, and you kind of just go through. Everything seems dark. You immediately see the kitchen. You immediately see kind of this living area. Doesn't seem to show any signs of activity. So essentially, like, well, Uncle has to be either upstairs in his bedroom or essentially in the kind of like water closet upstairs. There's only 4 rooms to this house, and you can see 2 of them immediately upon opening this door. So you kind of have a solid sense. Make your way through. Feels a little eerie. Maybe by the time like there's a little bit of like screeching of stepping up the stairs, you hear calling back. Um, Maybe something along the lines of, I can't quite recognize your voice. Did you ever name your father for Dalton?
I don't recall. Let me check my notes and see if I actually did or not.
So for what it's worth, maybe he calls out and says like to that effect of like, I don't recognize your voice. What is that? And he says your father's name there. So there's like a little bit of a semblance, like, okay, he he's ill enough to like mistake you for your father, but he's also well enough to at least recognize your father's voice. And essentially you get like this kind of call from the bedroom. You know where you're going. You guys can head on in, and you very quickly will smell a pretty kind of horrid kind of smell of someone who has likely been bedridden for far too long. Um, this isn't like high technology of like I would say many houses probably don't even have a water closet kind of thing. A lot of people probably normally use things like bedpans and the kind of like old Roman style of like medieval days of you're like dumping this shit out onto the street. So there's a lot of like not terrible smells here, but among that you also have kind of this sensation of this might also be like bed sores. Um, Clearly a little bit more illness than is comforting when it's someone you care about. And kind of like coming up to this, you can see him laying in bed. Make a perception check for me.
And that's flat.
Gotcha. So as you kind of like come into this, and your senses are initially kind of like blasted by like the darkness of the room, the smells, the kind of like just staleness of the air of this place. But you kind of like put on a nice face to greet your uncle and kind of move closer, and you just have an eerie feeling. You can see like his chest is writhing, rising, setting in very weird ways. It's not necessarily specifically following his breath. And as he kind of like, oh, Dalton, it's good to see you. I thought I recognized your voice. You look so much like your father these days. It's good to see you. What do I owe the pleasure? Davros.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be his name. I'll think of something for his mother's names too. Yeah, so I think Dem will um, kind of not expecting the smell, um, maybe trying to hide kind of the sudden like like um, this doesn't smell great. will move towards uh, his uncle. And they're like, yes, it's me, it's me, Dalton. Parents are parents are worried. What what happened?
Uh, right, they are. I've been misfortunate. I'm glad to see you, and perhaps you can help me overcome. I was following who I thought might be the one causing all of this trouble these some months. And I tracked them through the Warrens and towards the sea. I found something of interest, and in my desire to flee the mansion I was searching, I lost something precious. And he'll describe a kind of pendant that you'll kind of recognize, like that he's always been wearing through your entire life of knowing him. And he describes this kind of like uh, jade like gem that's kind of held inside of this like golden and platinum wrap. And it doesn't seem to be anything especially nice. It looks like a really nice gemstone, more raw than that it is like in a like explicit like nice cut. The wrap itself is more kind of like very fine golden wire than it is like some sort of cast gold that the gem sits into. But it's a pendant that he's worn for all of your life of knowing him. And he describes this gem, and you very quickly recognize it. You have a solid sense it's probably worth some money, but the way he speaks about it, I must have lost it while I was sneaking through the mansion. I was frightened, and by the time I had fled, the illness that keeps me bedridden was already too strong. It was all I could do to get back to the safety of my own home. And kind of continues on, like describing he had gone to this mansion that borders the coast. It overlooks the ocean. It's south of the Warrens, but still very close to where the Warrens starts to overlap into the Guildsman district. And as he's kind of describing this, you can't quite tell if he's describing a place that he thinks is haunted, whether he's describing a place that frightened him. It sounds like he says this illness is a result of having lost his pendant, but you start to wonder, like, could he have had like a mild heart attack by being frightened inside of this house? There's a lot of different ways that you, Dem, could interpret this situation, but you do have a certain sense, perhaps, of, if I can help, I can help. Um, what kind of thoughts do you all have as he's kind of describing this? So, I mean, again, I made a map. It doesn't necessarily have to agree with like this large form map of Tolus, but let's essentially say it's kind of like maybe a house along kind of this area between the Guildsman district and the Warrens.
Yeah, so I think so Briff is kind of like he's staying like at the very edge of the room, almost like this is not, this is a personal thing. And Dem is he's kind of listening to his quote unquote uncle describing what happened, and he's like almost ready to kind of like chide in, like, why don't you just call the guard? But then he's like thinking about all of his own recent kind of adventures, and he's just kind of like uh, shaking his head, and um, he's gonna kind of like look back to Briff, almost like the helpless expression, but then look back towards his uncle and kind of give a little sigh and um, you should have told someone where you were going. Where is this? Where is this mansion? Almost like he's like decided like, uh, ugh, okay, well, let me. Guess it's on to me now to kind of.
Uh, Let me have a history check from you. But Briffer is going to kind of like, kind of peeking across the door. I know the place well enough. There's been, yeah, and I think for what it's worth, you might be asking him to kind of like allow him to go on, maybe, kind of thing. But for what it's worth, like, assume this is kind of like almost one of those things, like as kids you always kind of grew up, people would tell stories about like the witch who lived in this place, and how if you looked into her eye you would see the day that you died, all kinds of like those like old wives' tales that kept you from going near a place that was kind of like run down and dangerous. And in a little bit of sense, also with this one in particular, perhaps also trying to keep you from going there because while you're working class as a guilder, you're still much better off than the people who live in the Warrens. And many people in the Warrens, as far as your family is concerned, would kill you just as soon as look you in the eye.
Gotcha. Okay. Is so like kind of like looking over his uncle too, like he's decided he's gonna, kind of as like he puts the pieces together in his head, like, all right, we're gonna have to go kind of see what's going on here. Um, but would it like if he tried to like essentially like go outside and find a, like a runner or a messenger, try to essentially hire somebody to go find like a I don't know if there are any temples in this area, or um essentially wants to like try and like get word to a cleric to, I mean, or a priest or something, just to kind of come keep watch over his uncle, kind of thing. Um, that
Do
would
you
probably.
have 500 gold on you?
He does not.
So most clerics are going to charge a pretty hefty bounty for the use of their spell work. And that's kind of the going rate to kind of care for somebody who's ill. Um, and it's kind of like a balance between like a lower level casting of certain spells that would help the ill. So I would say on some level, like, you do know that you can send messages via multiple routes. There are actual like shadow services where there's like magical messages where you actually have like a shadowy spirit that carries a message for you. They're a little bit more expensive, probably a little bit higher class than you would ever assume that you're going to send them. But it is perhaps the thing where like a guilder might send one message via a shadow spirit, like in their life. Like some of the most important things that you would ever send, you might send via a shadow messenger. One of the other things that you could always do is find any of the kind of main streets. There's often kind of like taxis and carriages that will also serve as messengers. Or you could simply go and try to hire a child like from the street to run a message. So those are the ways that you could send a messenger without doing it yourself. But on the some perspective, you're kind of at that like, maybe like fingering the magical like earlobe piece that has your comprehend languages. You kind of have this idea like it might cost you that simply to hire a cleric to come care for him for a few hours, to cast like a single spell for him. So you could do something like that and sacrifice something along those lines, or kind of sticking to sort of how he put it, you know, find this little amulet that he lost. It should be in that house, and he speaks of it as if it was protecting his life.
Yeah. So he's almost thinking like he's almost first started is like, all right, I'll send a runner and like charge to the co-ravens and like add to my debt. I'll add on to it later. But then with his uncle talking about this amulet and kind of like a little bit of um yeah, he'll decide uh okay, yeah, he'll uh he'll kind of look to his uncle kind of all right, well, see if we can uh see if we can find this, get it back to you, and kind of looking at Briff. He's it's like
Just have
just
like a solemn nod from Briff kind of thing. Like, he's with you. Um, maybe once you step away, you might get more information, but beside your uncle, while you're still like within earshot, he's almost like, let's talk, more moving.
yeah. So he's like just he'll like kind of look back to his uncle's like, just hang in there. We'll be back soon. And then kind of like with a nod towards Briff, start moving towards the doorway to with the plan to head to this manor.
Gotcha. So, normal kind of things that you could do along those lines before you go. Assume you like gave him some water, left like an actual glass, like close enough by where perhaps he could sip on some more, because he doesn't drink enough to kind of satisfy you, anyways. Maybe leave a ration, same kind of thing. Like he doesn't eat enough to comfort you. So, but at least it's there. At least there's something within arm's reach. It's what you can do, and the two of you are kind of heading out. Um, Briff might share kind of the concern of, into the witch's den we go. Perhaps beyond this little periapt that he values, we might also find riches for ourselves. And kind of like pulling out like a little bit of a flask, might kind of toast towards the air, take a sip, hand it to you for kind of like this toast to protecting your uncle and getting wealthier.
Yeah, and Dem will kind of somewhat absentmindedly like kind of nod and agree and take a shot and yes, I'm sure we'll find yes. But he's otherwise he is like let's just get there, get back. So he's a little preoccupied, but he's like yes, of course we'll I'm sure we'll find plenty.
Gotcha. Let me get a perception at disadvantage here.
So it should be a 3.
Wowza. Yeah, by the time you're like getting close to this house, like Dem's like kind of looking around and you guys are starting to approach this area. You can start to smell a little bit. Oh, do I have fog over this? Is this a black screen for you right now? Oh, my
Uh,
bot's loading it. It's fucking massive. That's what it is.
oh yeah, I'm seeing the loading screen.
So Dem's kind of like showing concern. You don't really notice it, but by the time you guys are getting close to this house, you're kind of in again this area where like the houses in places around this area are on the border of the Warrens. Everything is stacked up on top of each other. There's different areas where you can see like people have basically climbed onto other people's roof and started to like nail into their like shingles and start to build their house on top of other people's homes. And it's kind of on that level of things are super close in other places where there's like 2 or 3 foot wide alleyways here and there. So it's kind of going closer and closer and further away from a little bit more planned of a city. But each of you recognize this place for what it is. You're definitely not nearly as much paying attention. Briff is kind of watching and eventually brings up like there it is, and you kind of like will look up and see this old wooden mansion that stands kind of 3 stories tall. It stands above many of the buildings around it, but you can see like this old age to the wood of this place, where a lot of it is just kind of like almost like browned and blackened with like the sun over years and years of sitting, and it's this beautiful oaken or like osage orange kind of wood that has only gotten more beautiful with time. But when you look at the front facade of this home, it's just kind of daunting to see. It's got a beautiful set to it, but you've always known this place to be abandoned. People always tell stories of the things that they hear inside of it, of the screams, of the people who go inside just for a minute and then never come out. And just in that kind of like moment of Briff kind of saying we're here, you have like a lot of this kind of flashback over, but you see this facade of this place. You know your uncle is sending you in, that you need to find this little amulet that he's lost here and potentially gain a little bit more insight into maybe what has scared him. Perhaps gain a little bit more knowledge about what's happening here. But like as Brifford kind of says, like we're here and your attention is drawn back into the present. He kind of like, without pointing, maybe more of like a nod kind of thing, kind of like clues you into there's been like children who have been following you. And this again kind of goes to one of those questions of these are potential threats. They haven't approached you, they haven't done anything hostile, but this is one of the dangers of the Warrens. And some of them are like little kids, like 5 and 8 year olds. Some of them are teenagers, but in general, they are all kind of that weird level of I'm not going to ever say kids are non-combatants, especially when you meet kids in the Warrens. They are a threat. They're just not a threat right now. But you guys are at the house. The front door is essentially uh, kind of like right under the kind of awning there, and it's a nice big like arched 15-foot door. Kind of has one of those like I don't know how to describe it. Like it looks like a single arched door that comes out like a big piece of singular wood, but it's like 2 different doors. So it like opens left and right still, but like when it's shut, it looks like a solid piece of wood that makes this one large arch door. But you've got that entryway. There's windows all around the house, and I think kind of sitting with the idea that this is kind of like glass in the day of it's clear-ish, but it has that kind of distorted effect to it where it often looks like there's almost waves in the glass. Many of them probably would be damaged, broken, clouded with dust and with grime, but there's still other entryways if you wanted to bypass the door. But when you guys approach, what sort of thoughts would Dem have as to entering?
Yeah, so Dem looking up at this place, kind of for the kind of as like Briff pointed out, like of course it had to be this place, having kind of heard some of the stories, and then as Briff kind of points out the kids following them, Dem kind of looks back and um, I think at that point he will gonna draw his rapier and kind of like almost try to like almost like kind of like half lunging forward, trying to like scare the kids off. Like, you want to follow us in there, kind of thing. Um,
Make an intimidation here. Just have kind of like one of the older boys, who's maybe like 15, 17-ish, like the first little like sprigs of a beard kind of popping up. And he just kind of like crosses his arms, doesn't have like any particular weapon like to bear against you, but he doesn't really flinch, kind of looks at you with that little bit of disdain, and we'll follow you in to collect your corpses after.
so Dem will kind of yeah, kind of like shake his head, um, uh, and then kind of like turns back towards Briff, and um, in we go, I suppose. Uh, and then kind of like do one last little like, even though he knows it's not going to do anything, kind of one last little like kind of maybe like shake of his blade towards the crowd behind, but then kind of move to go through the main entrance.
Gotcha. So it's going to take loading. In the future, I will shrink them. I was like taking advantage of it's not roll 20 that I could make like larger things. I didn't actually think about how long it would take to load by doing like larger. I don't think the detail is like worth it. But it is kind of nice. Like as you enter into this like opening, you can see nice big kind of wooden room, wooden floors, wooden walls. This at some point would have been an incredibly beautiful home. You can see signs that the wood is decrepit and aged. Things smell like mildew and rot. You can see water damage. You can see kind of like areas where some of the wood clearly is getting wet from like recent rains. But yeah, kind of like from that entry. I never created a dem or a Brifford token. That's going to be Brifford.
Yeah, I didn't
You
give
can
you away.
Well, he's gonna. That's part of what I was getting at, where they're always going to be interchangeable. He's just going to be my NPC. You can tell me what he does in combat, but I'll do him like everywhere else. But
Sure.
as you guys enter through the door, you'll basically see there's. Oops.
Yeah, wasn't sure where the entrance was, but
Why wouldn't it let me delete him? All right. So when you enter through the door, you can see like that the wood of this place is old, and the windows being broken has brought in water damage to this place. You can smell the like dirt and grime like in the air. This place smells like wet, rotting wood. There's a staircase that leads up to the second floor, and the balcony that kind of crosses above to your right. There's a hall that leads to the west wing. See, this is where I fucked up, though. I should have had it turned. I'm going to describe stuff as if it is north in this perspective here. But this place should have been turned 90 degrees to the right. The coast is supposed to be where we're going to describe north. I messed that up in how I made it. If I had more time, I would have adjusted it today, but I already created all of the shadow or the fog of war stuff. So to the
Gotcha.
west, you have a hallway. Straight ahead, you have a hall, and down to the east, there's a hall behind the staircase. But you've entered into this first area. You kind of have four choices: go upstairs by the stairs, go left, go right, or go forward. Um, Place in general is going to be kind of like dimly lit. But I would also say that, like, as you kind of come through, there's enough light that you can see, like, coming through all like the windows of this place. You can see down that forward hall that it leads to a door that is shut. Probably like, what is that, like maybe 60 feet ahead of you. Um, so move forward a little bit, you'll probably be able to see down that western hall, that kind of thing. Like, you don't need light here, but you are in at least a little bit of kind of like just going off of what nature is giving you right now. So it's kind of a toss up whether you start to use something to increase your light versus just going on natural lighting for now. But for now, what would you like to do? Are you and Dem going to start with an order of how to explore this place?
Yeah, so I think Dem will light up a torch, um, try and get some better light. Um, but he will kind of nod towards Briff and towards um, uh, the opening towards their left. So up this way and kind of head towards that to investigate first.
Gotcha. So as you approach that western side of this mansion, you can see down the hallway. There's going to be the first door is on your left on the south side. There's another door that leads to the north, just a little bit beyond that. And then at the end of the hall, you can see another door shut in that hallway. Pretty similar feel. Like everything in this place is always going to have a certain like rune quality to the wood, but you can approach as you would like.
Yeah, so he's got the torch in one hand. He's got his rapier still drawn in the other, um, and he will start moving towards that first doorway.
Like as immediately as you start to move down the hallway, you're going to hear, "Oh." Roll a perception check for me.
Grade 8.
Gotcha. So you got your first sign that this place may be haunted. Like you kind of like stop for a moment to like wait and see like where it's coming from, but nothing ends up happening. You kind of hold yourself still for a moment. My bad. You can continue down the hall. Do you have a door in mind that you're going to go to first?
So probably the first available door. So I think this one too is south on the map.
Gotcha. So as you move towards that door and you start to open it, the door is not locked. There's a little bit of kind of like a budge to it. You can kind of like feel that the wood like hasn't expanded the same around the actual sill as it has like the actual like door kind of like sticking inside of the sill. But with a little bit of a pull, like you could initially feel that it's loose. You could turn like the knob so you know just to kind of like give it a little bit of effort. And you can open up that door and you'll see inside like ruined furniture. Um, there's some bookcases, kind of like all empty, little bits of paper scattered about them, and then along the ground, I think that's what it's meant to be in kind of that northeastern corner. But somewhere in this room, there's a stack of books. Not on any of the bookshelves, but there's a stack of probably about like 10 or a dozen books sitting along the ground.
Yeah, so Dem was definitely kind of like halted when he heard the kind of the moans, but he kind of tried to steel himself and kind of shaking his head, almost trying to convince himself, maybe it's just the wind, it's old house. Um, but I think he would probably be drawn initially towards the probably towards the stack of books that are not on the bookshelf. Um, be moving towards those.
Gotcha. As you approach them, you can see uh like they're written in common, so you can kind of interpret their titles. Looking over them, many of the books seem rather mundane, rather uninteresting. But three probably catch your attention as far as like magical things go. You'll notice. Let me actually get a history check from you. Three of the titles here are The Magical Properties of Gemstones by Dinas, The Magical Properties of Herbs by Dinas, and The Metaphysics of Mathematics by Serth. Is that modified at all, or is it 14?
History, you said, right?
Yep.
Nope, straight.
Gotcha. You recognize these names. You don't know why, but it's one of those things, kind of tip of your tongue. I feel like at some point somebody told you these three or these two names, but they're also the only two books here that seem to deal with kind of magical things versus kind of like mundane, like fiction, like a Reader's Digest. There's like some boring books in there, but these three books probably worth collecting. Most magical tomes you can get like 10 or so gold for. So probably worth packing or taking these three out.
Yeah. So you said the magical properties of gemstones, the magical properties of herbs by sorry, who was the
Dionys. Dionys.
and then the metaphysics of sorry, I missed the third one.
Metaphysics of Mathematics by Serth. Saerth.
Yeah, so I think yeah, realizing that he might be able to kind of sell these to a bookseller or something like that, he would go to collect them.
So just because I should play up their greed a little bit more, you'll kind of see like Briff kind of like look to you, maybe a little bit of like condensation, like condemnation, like in his eyes, like gets all excited to see like your excitement. These fucking books. And just kind of looks you over. You're selling those, and I'm taking half the profit. Halves.
Of course, Briff. Not worth much to me, but some people will pay good money for What did they say? One man's trash is another man's treasure. And I think kind of having found the a couple diamonds in the rough, as it were, in this stack, he would then move to probably the nearest bookcase to um, kind of similarly try and look over some of the titles.
Um, Roll an investigation, unless do you have proficiency in alchemical tools?
I do not.
So roll an investigation. If you beat, let's say, 12, you can roll an arcana.
Nope.
Yeah, so kind of like looking over things. It's one of those moments where you're like, it could be notes, could be like a book that like lost its binding. It seems to be random scribbles to you. Uh, doesn't make any sense. But again, like all of the books in this room were in that stack of 14. You got the three of those. The rest are just kind of like random papers left on the bookshelves.
Gotcha. So Dem will kind of like return back and um, might be able to give a few coins for these, kind of holding up the three books that he found, like recognize the names. Some people will pay good money, but otherwise suggest they move on, and we'll move towards the next door to their right.
Gotcha. So approaching that door, pretty kind of similar circumstance. It's like a little bit stuck, but you're able to open it with ease. And kind of opening this one, you see like a little bit of kind of like a crumbled desk and a chair. And then it seems like another chair that's kind of like set kind of together with a little bit of a bedroll. The room smells a little bit more musky, like lived in, than simply the actual kind of like wooden um, mold that most of the house has. And it kind of confirms that, like seeing what seems like a bedroll along one of the edges.
Yeah, so Dem is going to move into the room, probably moving towards the bedroll, trying to maybe see if there's anything that indicates that it's been like recently used, like food crumbs or um, kind of something like that might, or footprints, I guess, near it that might suggest that somebody's been camping here recently.
Gotcha. Let me get a perception there.
13 straight.
So looking through, you don't see any signs of any like recent activity. The mold has kind of like set into this role itself. Probably more than anything, it confirms a little bit that like there's people who don't believe this place is haunted, and they're probably vagabonds who, can't even afford like a penny's rest to sleep in one of those like I described previously, like where you can like spend a copper just to basically have other people to lean up against while you sleep in a penny's hotel.
Gotcha. Yeah. So he'll kind of like sift through that and yeah, just vagrants. And then I think he'll probably move towards the desk. And if the desk has drawers, um, maybe.
So, searching through the desk, you do find like an empty drawer that has like some things empty, and then it has some things in it. A drawer that's relatively empty, it has a few scraps, and you start to pick up like some of the symbols that you saw on some of those other scraps of paper, and then actual like words kind of next to them, and you start to actually like attach like common names to some of these things, and you kind of recognize I think along the same grounds. We never really said what kind of guilder your father was, but growing up in the Guildsman district, this is like a place where you would be relatively familiar with a lot of like chemicals and especially like industrial uses of chemicals. And you can kind of like come to recognize like what's a solid one? Like oh man, root like something I can't think what you'd call it, but like you can put it on stump remover is like potassium chlorinate or something like that. But like you're kind of like seeing like some of these symbols that you've seen stand for some of these chemicals. The only thing inside of this desk is purchase like receipts for some of these chemicals in the past, but it's kind of adding to what you might understand this house might be. You found magical books, you found kind of like obscure notes, and somebody who's buying chemicals. You can probably have it like getting to a point of recognizing this place might have a certain affinity to alchemy or kind of essentially chemistry. Um, you feel like there would be a secret compartment in this desk. You can't quite find your way into it. Do you have thieves' tools?
He should, but he does not.
Gotcha. So at present, I would say you kind of recognize there's a certain level of, like, I don't know if you know much about like Japanese construction, but about how you can make kind of like nailless buildings. They also make puzzle boxes that kind of have like a lot of like push and pull, and it's kind of like a big riddle to get inside of this cute little box, like a jewelry box kind of thing. You have a solid understanding that there's something hidden inside of this desk. You just don't have a way to get to it. You have any thoughts how you might get to it?
Let's see.
Rick kind of like looks at you from the door. If it's more books, I'm not willing to break it. But if you think there's gold in there, I'll break it for gold.
Yeah, I think Dem will. So first, he's going to actually like take up some of the papers and kind of stuff them away in his pack. They're not worth anything now, but he's thinking, you know, if they, assuming they seem to be written by maybe the same hand, given he is a forger, you know, having copies of maybe a handwriting sample, um, never know. So he's gonna maybe grab a few of the kind of the loose papers, and thinking if there's something, some hidden compartment in this desk, but he can't reach it, he'd probably get a little frustrated and maybe pull out like a dagger and kind of looking to Briff like not sure what it is, but if he hit it, it must be worth something, and maybe try and almost like carve open or try to like very crudely kind of pry open this where he thinks the hidden compartment might be, and then probably if it's not working immediately, you'd almost like just like smash it.
Gotcha. So let me get a sleight of hand from you, but disadvantaged.
Yeah, that's a nat one, so a 6 total.
Gotcha. So you can take inspiration with that one. But as you're kind of like trying to manipulate what you feel is one of these like sliding bars, you start to feel like you're actually getting somewhere, and then in a moment like the little bit of wood like snaps off and you're just like shit. And that bit of it like no longer slides. So you've kind of like moved a piece of the puzzle and then broke it into place. Um, at this point, you're looking at smash it or leave it behind.
Yeah, I think Dem frustrated at
I guess really it's not necessarily or leave it behind. I've already kind of given you, yeah, it's part of the desk. So let's keep it as the idea is that it's large like the desk too. So my bad.
no worries. Yes, I think Dem a little frustrated will probably just like, all right, I'm gonna just smash it open.
So do you are you gonna do it with them and do a strength athletics for me? Otherwise, you can kind of send um you can have Briff assist and gain advantage.
I think Dem will try it himself first. Again, kind of similar with the door, even though he's not the strongest guy, but he's just frustrated, so he's going to try and.
Gotcha. Go for it.
All right, 18.
Roll a dexterity saving throw for me, please.
He does a +5 on that.
Excellent. So as you like rage smash into this thing and just decimate this like wooden kind of like puzzle box, you like smash into it, and as you're kind of like sifting through the splinters and like the rotted wood, and like you can see some of these intricate little like wooden like slides and things, like you can kind of see a little bit more of the mechanism before eventually you kind of come to see that there is a little vial inside of this filled with a red liquid. If you unstopper it, take a sniff, it still smells sweet, almost kind of like cherries, or with a little taste. It's a healing potion. Um, that in particular, though, is a single vial with 2 doses of a healing potion.
Yeah, so Dem will maybe look a little, almost like a little abashed about like having like just like smash this thing, but then seeing the vial is like, all right, and kind of he will show it to Briff, um, after like kind of opening the stopper and sniffing it and kind of um, yeah, like yeah, he'll restopper it, we put it, tuck it away in a pocket, and not sure why they went to all that trouble, but let's keep moving and kind of move back towards the entrance to rejoin Briff. And does this hallway seem to end after these two doorways?
My apologies. No, there's a third door there. Yep, that's a doorway as well.
Gotcha. Okay, so he will move to try and open that door.
As you're like moving past and going towards to open that door, Briff's just gonna kind of like, with a little bit of like a shoulder nudge to you. Those are gold too. Or I guess that's gold too. As you kind of like quip, like, I'm not sure why they hit it, but he's like thinking like, hey, that's gold. That's for us. Looking inside of this room, Vastly, it seems kind of uninhabited. There's, and I think that's just meant to be like a little kind of seat in the southeast. I think that's more the artist's kind of description here. Um, yeah, I think overall, yeah, okay, it's refuse in the corner. It's just kind of a bunch of things, a little bit more of an idea. Like there's vagabonds who kind of come into this place. They use it for a time, go on, and leave kind of their trash behind. But otherwise, kind of seems like this room is pretty much empty. Any thoughts as you enter and look over it?
So then Dem kind of like getting inside, seeing the refuse in the corner, and not seeing anything immediately kind of draw his eye, will kind of turn back and kind of shake with a shake of his head towards Briff. Let's keep. Nothing seems to be in here. Let's keep going. And start moving back towards the main entrance with the idea of maybe moving towards the um, I guess the northern corridor hallway.
Gotcha. So, a little nod from Briff, a little bit of a, there's nothing there. And then he kind of like moves his way out, kind of looks back at you, looks to the north as well as you kind of look to the north. You guys can see again, there's like the closest door will be on your right as you start to head in that direction. Almost immediate adjacent, there's a door to the left, and then you can see a door straight ahead, as well as what appears to be the hallway turning to the right before that door straight ahead.
Yeah, so Dem will move to the first door on the right here, and again try to open it.
Yeah, so inside of that room, you'll kind of have like a blast of like musty, stale air. Very quickly seeing a few old. I'm just gonna reveal that hallway because I had part of it blocking this room. A few old armchairs. Uh, Seems almost like a sitting room. Maybe like a place to relax, like after dinner, have a cigar. It smells a little bit different than the rest of the house, but perhaps that's simply like a different mold taking hold of these chairs.
Yeah, so Dem will he's gonna move inside.
Oh, my bad. And I think that is a chimney on the kind of southwestern side, like right below as you enter the door.
And yeah, his uncle didn't mention like where he thought he had lost the periap, the necklace, right?
Yeah, essentially all you've got is somewhere inside of here. He was following somebody, arrived at this place. He got frightened while he was here, and by the time he kind of like stumbled home, he realized that he did not have it.
Right. And so the only and the moans that we heard, those only seem to did those seem to are they like ever present, or do they kind of start when we entered and then
It was just that one moment when you entered that one hallway.
right, okay.
You might at this point start to recognize, like, perhaps that was the kids outside fucking with you.
Right, okay. um yeah, I guess Dalton would probably, or Dem would probably move towards, just curious, he'd probably move towards the ruined fireplace and just try to see if he can discern whether like a fire has been lit in here recently, like any kind of lingering smell of smoke or any ashes that look like they kind of more recent kind of thing.
Gotcha. Roll a perception here for me.
It looks like a 10.
Yeah, so as you kind of look around, more or less seeing no signs of any recent fire, like in this fireplace. Um, I don't know why, but this drawing doesn't have. At present, I feel like every room has had a fireplace, and I feel like that might be in part my problem for not describing them. Um, yeah, it looks like all three of the rooms you've already been through have a fireplace. And pretty much every room in this place is going to have it, maybe except for a few. So I apologize for that. This in particular, though, is the first one that, as you actually root around in the fireplace, there's going to be a moment where you notice a few spiders kind of crawling out, and I need you to roll initiative.
So that'll be 12 for Dim.
I think it's going to stop on the fiver. It's going to be to you. As you kind of like have all of these tiny little spiders like crawling up your arm. What kind of thought do you have as to how you are going to defeat them?
And are they like pretty like standard size spiders?
What are you thinking? Like, are these a danger? Yes. That might be a little bit meta to say, but I feel like it's kind of the difference of like, um, if you see one spider, it might freak you out. If you had one spider crawling on you, you're probably gonna slap it. If you had like 50 spiders crawling on you, you're gonna think about burning yourself alive.
Gotcha. Yeah. So the main thing I was thinking, like, if it was a big spider, he would probably try and stab it with his rapier. But if it's a bunch of like little spiders, he might try and essentially burn them by kind of thrusting the torch at them.
Gotcha. I would say that's going to be kind of up to you. You could certainly make an improvised attack with the torch, if you would like. The alternative is technically you could pierce these with your actual sword. Um, for what it's worth, this is one of those things where mechanically they have resistance to piercing specifically because of how small they are, how difficult it would be. I don't think it's like too meta to tell you that because this is a swarm of tiny creatures that together make a much larger creature. They're only able to be really attacked with your sword because there's so many of them.
Yeah. So I think like his initial instinct would be like seeing a bunch of like kind of like tiny spiders kind of crawling out would be to almost like, yeah, thrust his torch in and try to kind of light them up as he's backing away.
Gotcha. What kind of clothing does Dem wear? What kind of armor, what kind of clothing do you have on? Like, do you have sleeves on you? Do you have like a leather tunic?
Yeah, so he's got leather armor. I'm thinking probably like a leather tunic and then kind of nice. I mean, not too nice, but you know, not silk, but probably like nice linen kind of sleeves. But I'm thinking
Gotcha.
probably, yeah, leather
Potentially
doesn't.
leather long sleeves, though. So here's what you can do. Make an improvised attack. You do not have proficiency with it, so this is essentially just like I mean, realistically, strength or dex. I feel like it's kind of like using a club, where you theoretically have finesse with this attack. Um, so you can do a dexterity based attack, and it will do uh like a D4 bludgeoning. Yeah, that'll hit. And then you can do a D4 fire, but you are going to deal essentially half of a D4 fire to yourself. Yeah, I feel like that's too rough. Just don't roll a 4 for the fire damage. I'll do 1/4 of a D4 to you.
Right, so 1 and then 4.
You roll a 4 with the fire?
The first was bludgeoning, right? And then
Yep.
yeah, so 1
The first.
bludgeoning and then 4 fire.
Gotcha. So take 1 fire damage. As you try to like stamp them out, you're going to deal all of that 5 damage to them as you kind of burn some away. You kind of smash some as you like roll it across your arm, like kind of bludgeoning them. What would you like Dalton to do, or shit? What would you like Brifford to do to help you? I assume you do not want him swinging his sword at you right now.
Yeah, I do not. Hmm. I mean, I guess you probably move in.
So he could either like assist you in your next attack, giving you advantage. You could maybe have him do like um something like a grapple to kind of like basically remove them from you. That might give you a chance to like get them immediately off of you. Um,
Yeah, could he like try to essentially not a grapple exactly, but essentially try to like swipe the spiders off of Dem, like almost trying to
like a shove, basically. Yeah,
yeah.
give me a strength athletics. Let's call him a +4 on that modifier, and then I will roll for the spiders. Um, and they can use their dexterity to kind of dodge, which looks like I might have it because I think I rolled a 19.
Yep, that would be a 9 for Briff. So yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
so
flailing away.
they kind of just like are swarming about, and trying to push them away doesn't seem to really do anything for either of you. As he's kind of like trying to push over them, what it does do is they start to kind of swarm up him, and they're going to try to bite down onto him, and they will do. I don't like that his armor can protect him from spiders.
Yeah, I feel like
So
they're getting underneath. Yeah.
yeah, it feels kind of weird. I'm gonna turn that into an advantage just to see. But just for the potential at present, it looks like they're just kind of like biting into the steel and into the thicker parts of his suit. I don't think even a 15 is going to hit him, even if they had that 12. So they seem to be kind of swarming over him as well. Um,
I like
the
the
alt
idea of like essentially
duplicates.
you ignore his like his actual armor, and you just use like dexterity plus like his natural AC.
Yeah,
So
it's
10
weird. I
plus
feel
dex.
like that's one of the things where if I designed the spider, I would probably do something a little different rather than with how setting up this goes. It's usually so last minute that I don't really modify anything too much. What I did modify it was actually to make it hopefully easier so you can survive this place. Making a solo mission is always very interesting in D&D because it's very difficult.
Yeah, especially with the guy with 5 hit points.
Right. So they're kind of like swarmed between the two of you right now. It comes back to Dem. Same idea. Like at this point, you can try to like bash into them, and try to like attack them with that club again or with your torch. And same thing, basically, if you roll max damage on the fire, I'm going to make one of you take a little bit of the damage. But that might still be your best attack unless you decide to use magic here.
Yeah, looking over the spells, Thunder Wave's not going to work because they're all crawling over a Briff as well.
Thunder Wave isn't necessarily a bad spell because it's like forward of your hand. Does
Yeah,
does Thunderwave say anything in that space? Like, is it any creature,
yeah.
or does it
Each
say an enemy?
creature, yeah, each
Gotcha.
creature within a 15-foot. Yeah, because it would hit it would hit Briff.
Yeah, I mean you've got limited spell slots too, so that's another thing about like Thunderwave is a level 1 spell, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely more maybe looking at a cantrip, perhaps. But I feel like the torch is still a solid idea to try to like burn them just as much as you're trying to bludgeon them.
yeah. I feel like Vicious Mockery doesn't really work because that's you can't really mock a swarm of spiders.
Is one of those silly things. It doesn't say you can't. It's any creature. Um, you can definitely use vicious mockery, but I feel like you've got more damage possibility with the other thing.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking of was like dissonant whispers were essentially it's like not hitting, the one creature, but it's like essentially whispering at the but I think he's just gonna go with the torch attack again.
Gotcha. So same idea. Dexterity based finesse attack, no proficiency. They're not hard to hit, but you need a 12. It's far more because there's so many of them and they're tiny. Solid hit. So first D4 will be the bludgeoning. Second D4 is the fire, and don't roll a 4 with the fire.
Oh, you jinxed it. So three blood.
So we'll do odd. You hit yourself, and the even you hit Clifford.
All right, let me clear this. So three
So
bludgeoning, 4 fire.
yep. So doing another. What is that? I think
Uh,
it's just under 10 damage total to it now, or just over 10 damage. With him, essentially, to maintain his single wound, just roll a constitution save, like roll a d20, but don't roll a 1. And I guess for what it's worth, you could give him advantage. Because if you roll a 1, you get. Yeah. So he's good there. um, so the spider's going to kind of swarming over you guys again. He's going to continue to try to bite into Brifford. I'm sticking for. I feel like advantage is the solution to it. Just leave it like that. I need a 16, I think, to get past his armor. I'm not actually looking at the Swords Master. Should hit. Let's see. It does an average of 10 damage. So do a DC 10 con save for me here. Oh, you've got it at half health, so it's a DC 5. Yeah, he's golden. And back to the two of you. Oh wait, we didn't actually do his attack last time. With it kind of swarming over the two of you, do you have any thoughts to further add to it with Brifford attacking? Do you want to do something like just unarmed striking? Do you want to have him actually like make an attack with his sword? It's safer for him to kind of like attack towards himself because he's not going to just cut off his own arm, kind of thing.
yeah, again, I don't think he'd be like swinging his blade with them all on him. So, uh, yeah, maybe.
It's kind of a weird thing where swarms can occupy your space, but it's not supposed to prevent you from attacking them. It's just one of those things where the mechanics of the game do kind of fail a little bit with verisimilitude.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he would probably have a dagger on him, so maybe something a little more finesse like that he would try to like kind of like almost like scrape them off him kind of thing.
I got you. It's also why they get resistance, though. So you can dagger if you'd like, and basically make an attack that's a little more basic. But again, he's not necessarily supposed to not be able to use his great sword here. Imagine like if there's 1,000 of these spiders crawling over you. Once you guys kill a few hundred, the rest kind of like just dissipate into the cracks and crevices. You know.
Yeah. So yeah. So I guess in that case, he will. Yeah, essentially, probably looking a little bit silly, but he will essentially probably try to be using his great sword almost like a
Like a fly
razor
swatter,
almost. Yeah.
just kind of like almost like you would spank somebody with like the flat end of the sword who you like beat in a friendly combat, but not somebody you want to cut in half.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So go with he's got a +4. You pretty much need to roll an 8 or better with him. And then I think his damage is 2d8 plus giving him a +4 right now. So 2d8 plus 2 will be his damage. And then these things are resistant. Is that the damage? So 10.
Yeah. So 6 total, I think, right?
Oh, wait, did you add a +2 with that?
So 8 plus 2. You said 2 8 plus 2, right? So
Yeah,
10.
10. So it should do 5 damage because of the resistance.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we got it at about a quarter of a health. We already did its attack. He resisted as they're kind of like biting into him. And you just need to do a little bit more damage to finish them off. I think the two of you can attack and get rid of the last of these before they're able to like swarm and attack you again. How many of them did I duplicate? There we go. So you guys like finish off the last of the swarm. The spiders kind of like start to like flee, and you see as like some of them duck under the floorboards, some return into the little fireplace there. Some of them kind of just crawl into like the crevices and the corners. But after a moment, you kind of like swat the last one or two that are on you, and whew, arachnophobia be damned. You're okay. A little bit burned, but okay.
Yeah. Dalton will kind of shudder and kind of be, yeah, swiping off like kind of non-existent spiders. Like, spiders. It had to be spiders.
I forgot you have 5 hit points. I feel bad for making that fire deal damage to you.
Oh, no worries. I mean, yeah, they low level. He's. I'm surprised he's lived this long. Um, but yeah, now the spiders have kind of been cleared out. He will a little tentatively kind of continue kind of rooting around in the fireplace to see if there's anything of any interest. I mean, presumably he would have been doing the same thing kind of in if there were other fireplaces in the other rooms, essentially also just seeing like where there are recent signs of recent activity kind of thing.
Gotcha. So you can push this a little bit further and kind of like start to like you already kind of look through there. There's not any new signs. If you want to look through, you could like start to kind of like almost like kind of like hammering into it with the torch, trying to bust loose some of the stones, and actually like dismantle it a little bit. Is that what you're kind of thinking? But otherwise, you kind of looked through it and saw there's not really signs of fresh fire recently here.
No, he wouldn't go to that extent. So he would just be, after rooting around in the ashes, that would be kind of enough for him. There's no reason for him to have been kind of like punching through. So he would consider, be moving on. Probably to the next door here. Maybe kind of.
My bad. Continue.
Just with this kind of like torch kind of held out, almost like leading him, being like, anything's gonna drop down, I'm gonna burn it before I get in. But otherwise, yeah, moving to that next door and trying to move into the next room there.
Yeah, it seems so weird, but like the module, I don't even know if you can see where I'm drawing, has a fireplace right by that door, fireplace in the study right by that door. I think to like stress that this is a mansion, it's like all of these rooms have fireplaces. And there's like a fireplace like straight ahead in that one. But for what it's worth, none of those fireplaces specifically have anything to interact with. I would say what you can kind of confirm in the one room that you saw signs of somebody like staying in the room, the fireplace there might confirm like probably roughly like if it's like 3 or 4 months ago, somebody might have left those bedrolls behind, might be signs of a fire potentially that long ago. The refuse in like that very open room might be roughly the same. So at present, you've got signs people have been here, but it's hard to tell whether it was like a month ago or like 6 months ago. Um, with that room, as you kind of push in, you'll see signs of it being a dining hall. Another broken table, bunch of upturned chairs. You can see um, uh, yeah, broken windows, couple of dishes. Kind of like looking over it, nothing really jumps out at you as like anything worth kind of searching for. I think the fireplace would be along this southeastern. That does not make sense to me. But that's where it's drawn. So you could potentially look there if you wanted any other evidence, but realistically, you don't really see too much.
Yeah. I think, yeah, after giving kind of a cursory look through, not really seeing anything that's drawing his interest. Dem will suggest we move on. He would, after that kind of encounter with the spiders, have given kind of a little bit of a kind of rousing speech to Briff. So essentially, he's granting him bardic inspiration if we need it in the next 10 minutes. Um, but
Gotcha.
otherwise, kind of like, looking in, not really seeing anything that immediately draws his attention. Probably moving towards the door to the north of him.
Gotcha. So getting to that edge of the hallway, you would see there's a door out of the house to your right. And it seems like this door leads into this kind of northern side of the house, this ocean side of the house. There's not actually anything down that other than the exit, basically. When you open up the door, though, you will see. See, this is another weird like setup. You see signs of this being a kitchen. You've got like a stone wash basin to your left, like a preparation table along the wall, a staircase that leads up to the next level, kind of straight ahead. And I would say, since the fireplace is supposed to be there, that the like sink is kind of like maybe like it's instead of a stone sink, like a cast iron kind of thing, where the fireplace is attached to the sink in case you wanted to like boil or heat up the contents inside. It's kind of weird. Like this is what artist rendition versus like the module kind of happens. And then there is a door kind of directly in front of you to your right, just like another 5 feet ahead.
Yeah, so I think his initially would again move towards the wash basin and just look for any signs that it's been used recently, like water stains or
Gotcha. Roll another perception for me here. Or I guess could be investigation.
It's flat either way, so it'd be a 13.
All right. So as you're kind of like looking around this room, you kind of like go for the sink and you kind of like test to see if there's any signs of it kind of having any sort of manipulation. Um, you're kind of like going to stand up and you almost like while you're still like on your knees starting to like brace yourself to push yourself back up, you kind of like look off past them and it's or past Brifford, and it's kind of like a moment of hold up. There's a third set of footprints, and you can kind of see that there's like footprints leading, basically, kind of like I'm gonna draw these a little bit, almost like into that side door, off to your right, and in kind of the same moment that you're recognizing that, you're going to hear kind of like the clickety clack of feet, and I need you to roll for initiative again.
So 14.
Why won't it let me drag this off?
Actually, might take a quick 5 minutes.
Oh, go for it. Yep.
Thanks. Okay, I'm back.
Excellent. So again, you were like kind of leaning down to like check around the sink, almost as you're like going to prop yourself up. You kind of like look back as Brifford's walking into the room and see that there's like a third set of footprints that kind of like leads in and goes through that door to the right. And as you're kind of like again like stepping back up to full height, you kind of like hear these like clicking of many feet as out from under the sink and like these floorboards swarm a bunch of centipedes, and it's going to go to you and Brifford to react first. What would you like to do?
Uh, yeah, so I think instinctively he will move away. He will back away from the sink. Kind of shouting like snakes to Briff. Then thinking like he's also, yeah, not a big fan of snakes. I think he is going to maybe stupidly, he is going to actually cast Thunder Wave.
That's a Constitution saving throw, correct?
Yes, con 13.
And that's like the cube in front of your hand, right? It's a 9 or a 15-foot cube.
Yep, 15-foot cube.
Gotcha. So, assuming like at least some of the glass in this room isn't already kind of exploded, maybe you like blast out the glass that's behind the sink itself. Um, Not to be ominous at all. I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can't see me measuring. But just a reminder, thunder is loud. Um,
Yes, very loud.
Big ol' explosion. It does not resist. What is your damage? Is it that 11?
11 damage, and if I guess it would be pushed 10 feet away if possible. I guess I don't know if that's through the wall or.
Yeah, on that one, I think what you're gonna kind of get is um, kind of nothing because they haven't moved yet. You blast a bunch of them are going to like splatter against the wall behind it. As you basically see, you probably kill at least like half of these centipedes as they're crawling out. But there's still like the others still kind of like writhing and crawling out of the floorboards. And you can make an attack with damn it, with Brifford. Gotten into the habit of thinking you're Dem or Dalton, and then he's the other one, but they're both your name.
Yeah, Dalton, he goes by Dem. Yeah. Yeah, but I think Briff would move forward and just kind of be slashing out at these snakes with his sword. Big ol' miss.
That is then another reminder. Use that inspiration because that would have been another chance to be inspired. To like keep it flowing with that one D&D style of inspiration. So yeah,
Oh,
is he kind of what was that?
uh, yeah, I can't use the because he did have bardic inspiration. But I think he probably can't use that on net one.
Oh, no, I meant more like consider Dalton inspired, and you could like you can use it technically on him as well. But basically like use your normal inspiration like at some point to give yourself advantage, because that would have been another inspiration. But you don't have
Right.
like somebody to give it to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But like this game is essentially using the one D&D style of playtest. So the centipedes are gonna go, and I just keep rolling for him. So I'm gonna eventually kill him, or should give them advantage on this one. I'm gonna just go with the first one. Is that 7? So they're gonna miss as they kind of like swarm over them. Um, what would you like to do?
Yeah. So Dem will.
Damn it! I said it again. They're swarming over Brifford.
Yeah. So Dem is going to. Uh, yeah, kind of like coming back to his senses after thinking maybe that wasn't the smartest move. Um, I think he's just going to try and like stab out at them, hoping not to hit Briff.
Gotcha. This go about is going to be with your rapier.
Yes,
Excellent. Make the attack.
there should be a 17 to hit.
17 will hit. And is that 12 damage as well?
Let's see. Nope, 4.
Gotcha. So you do indeed like stab through one of these centipedes, and you like pierce through it. And feels really good, but there's still a bunch of centipedes swarming around him. Uh, it's one of those weird things where again there's so many of them. Killing one doesn't necessarily feel like a lot, but it is a start. And you've definitely killed a lot. So go to Brifford, make an attack with him.
Yeah, Brifford is still just like swinging around with his great sword, maybe a little recklessly.
It's weird. It's showing me two different numbers when you roll, but on my bot, it's showing just a single roll with the d6 kind of die, but it says a 12.
Yep, 12. Yep.
Gotcha. Happy with that? Or are you adding his inspiration from Dalton?
Yeah, I'm gonna use the inspiration.
All right, I was psyching you out. It's a solid hit, but you can roll the inspiration anyways.
Yeah, so
Um,
13.
13, yeah. Still, you get a good hit. 12 is actually their AC. It's just enough to hit. But you can roll 2d6 or 2d8 plus 2 for his damage. I've got about 6 hit points left, so you need to do 12 to get a kill here.
7 total.
So, a couple more get killed. There's still like more and more dying, but they are going to kind of like swarm across. Damn, I gotta stop pressing Alt. More and more are going to swarm across so they can actually get to Dalton. They're going to try to bite into me. It dropped the die simply vertically. It didn't even pretend to roll it. And big old 2 is not going to hit you. So they're just trying to like swarm over onto you. And kind of goes back to the same idea. Like you can make another couple of rolls here, but I think it's pretty solid that the two of you together can kill off these last few centipedes and kind of eradicate them. The last few kind of doing the same idea, flee into the floorboards and kind of like eradicate this area. What would you two like to do?
Yeah, so yeah, Dalton is definitely kind of after having dealt with those things coming out of the wash basin, is going to move and try to inspect the this third set of footprints.
Gotcha. Are you looking to follow them, or what are you thinking when you inspect them?
I guess probably the first thing is trying to determine who they might belong to. So size, tread, that kind of thing, more than like where they're heading off to.
Gotcha. So you can at very least confirm these are not your footprints. Let me get an investigation from you. I assume on some level maybe that you're thinking like these are my uncles or are not my uncles kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the basic idea. Yeah, like do they look humanoid? Do they look about the size of a human? Yeah,
Okay, you are going to confirm these, for all intents and purposes, are human male, um, or rather human. I feel like it's probably maybe a little more weight range than saying a foot is male or female. So you can probably confirm this is probably a human, say roughly 6 or so foot tall, probably somebody who weighs between like 160 and 180 pounds. While you kind of know they are neither yours nor Dem's, uh, you're probably still falling into like a demographic of like 30% of the males in Tolis kind of thing. Um, there's a lot of potential people these are. It doesn't really confirm anything for you.
right, right. But nevertheless, thinking, okay, his uncle's been here recently. He will, yeah, he's gonna move towards this door and move to open.
So in this room, a little bit damper than the rest. You can kind of see like mold growing on the floor. There's kind of a wash basin in the northern side. You can see kind of like pots and pans like heaped up in a corner. Can kind of figure out like at some point this was basically the like washing room for after like dinners were prepared back when this place was like in full repair. And then ahead of you, you can see stairs that kind of from like north to south lead down into a lower level below this room. So you've got stairs that go upward to your left right now, and then straight ahead stairs that go down.
Yeah, so he's gonna look towards Briff, move. He would probably check the basin just to see if there's anything like floating in it, like anything unusual, not like a real close examination, but kind of just like. But otherwise, would, if nothing immediately kind of catches his eye, would move towards the stairway that leads down.
Yeah, I think you could kind of see signs that the base.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Less moisture to it than like any of the other surroundings of this building.
Sorry, you kind of cut out in between.
I wonder if my keyboard is dying. Give me 1 second to plug this in.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
Alrighty. So you can tell that this basin was used to boil water. There's not necessarily moisture inside of it that gives you any sign of whether anything has been boiled recently or was it sometime in the past. You can't really like make that out. Everything about this room is a little bit moister than like the rest of the house, but a lot of this place has that kind of like open air rot from being next to the coast and having broken windows.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Dan will kind of with a bit of trepidation start heading down the stairs.
So as you step down onto the stairs, you're going to hear, "Ah, no!" As screams just kind of fill this room, and it's just horrific. Somebody being butchered, people being tormented, just kind of like a moment of what the fuck.
Yeah, I think he'll recoil initially, but then almost like thinking, "Oh, there's some massacre going on." He's gonna, I think, rush down the stairs like better than his against his better judgment kind of thing.
All right, so again, it's still loading up. When you get in, I've already dropped Brifford down into the room. You'll just have to drop Dalton. And I think I created like 19 Brifford. So you guys like start to walk down these stairs. You hear like as the screams like kind of like pass away as you're moving down with a little bit more kind of like alacrity to your step as you make it down into this lower level. Among kind of the first things that you'll see is this room is like sealed off. There's nothing in here to get out of this place. This is the cellar, and it's basically in or out via these stairs. You very quickly see that there's a body. Somebody died in here. They're in the center of the room, wearing plate mail. Their sword, their shield, their things are kind of like around, just in arm's reach. You can see some of the blood from these attacks. And empty walls, the wine cellar seems to be completely cleared out. There's bottles smashed, bottles broken across the ground, but like very few, if any, bottles remain in the actual racks. It looks like this place has been pretty well ransacked. And I think those are two little boxes that might be supplies. Um, yeah, two large metal storage bins. It says they appear to be empty, so maybe they're a little bit closer to, say, like almost like a wheelbarrow, or perhaps like just like a metal box that's kind of like open top. Perhaps you can actually see that they're empty, is what it's getting at.
So, is Dem able to see like kind of immediately that this person has been dead for a while, or how do they look?
Smell wise, you would definitely pick up like this place, like has the stench of death, the stench of rot. I think, kind of looking over things, um, you may have a sneaking suspicion, that this person's been dead for some time. You probably don't have to get terribly close to them to see that their flesh is already rotting away. So I don't think you need a whole lot more clues to necessarily come to the conclusion like this person's dead.
Gotcha. And the screams, are they continuing, or do they kind of like it was like a one-time scream as we started down the stairs?
Roll a wisdom check.
And that would be straight.
Yeah, the screams were kind of at the top of the stairs. You don't know if this place is actually haunted. Then it's kind of like that was the moment that the haunting kind of happened. You definitely can confirm like this person dead on the floor is not the person who you heard screaming. You probably heard like three, four, maybe even more people who were screaming in pain.
Yeah, so I think Dem would have kind of like frozen when he heard the scream, but then yeah, he's gonna move on into the room. Um, Seeing this person lying dead, he would probably I think he would actually probably move to the wine bottles or the wine racks here to see if there was anything so worth kind of scavenging.
Gotcha. Roll a perception as you move past the body.
11.
So You don't know what you saw, but you just have like this weird feeling that like maybe something moved when you moved past this person who's dead on the ground. You heard like a little like clink of metal, and you kind of like look back at Dem and you or at at Brifford, and you don't think it was just like Brifford's armor, but you can move past like the body and get to the wine racks if you would like to inspect them further.
Yeah, I think like hearing the kind of he would almost like kind of look back, look to Briff. Um, he almost like kind of like maybe nudge with his foot, like the the corpse, like trying to make sure like this is not just like the the armor settling like before he looked to the wine bottles. He was like be like kind of not quite kicking, but like kind of nudging with his foot.
So as you like nudge into the body, you kind of like feel almost like this like kind of like soft, almost like gelatin feel to like the resistance your foot feels. And as you like put a little bit more pressure on it to like go through this nudge, you're going to hear a little bit of a I don't think that would come through on my mic, but kind of like a pop, almost like a really big zit or like an infection where you have a lot of like white blood cells kind of like coalescing into a little bit of like a blood blister or something, and that like moment where you pop and your skin relieves all of this pressure, and out of this like white milky goo there's going to be tiny little creatures that immediately start to swarm towards you, and you can see all of these tiny little teeth, and you can see like the flesh moving around as they start to squirm out of it, and the body almost tears open into this large kind of gaping wound, and about like 20 or 30 of these creatures are starting to like swarm towards you. I need you to roll initiative again.
16.
Alrighty, so as these things are kind of like swarming towards you, you will go first. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I think again he is going to just like kind of throw the torch out and like you know insects. Yeah, you're trying to burn them away.
First reaction is like throw the torch at them, or like you're just like first attack is like a torch swipe.
Yeah, just like swiping the torch at them. Yeah.
Gotcha. Do that similar than finesse style attack, and you can have it do D4 and a D4 fire and bludgeoning. Oh my bad. You kind of cleared that quick. What was your roll to hit?
Oh, I think it was a 15, so it'll be plus.
Yeah, that'll definitely hit. And then you got four bludgeoning and four. What's your dexterity bonus? You have a +3 dex.
Plus 3. Yeah.
Man, hope it doesn't affect things, but I kind of forgot about that. It is. I like the idea of saying it's a finesse weapon. I kind of ignored that. So 5 and then 2 fire. So as you smash into these things, um, You see like a bunch of them pop, and as they kind of pop, you can actually see like the juices of their bodies like popping. It like sizzles and the actual fire kind of increases, and you can see like these things are like flammable themselves. um but you can smash into them there. And what is Brifford doing as these things kind of like swarm towards your feet?
Yeah, I think Brifford is just like yeah, he's just like as these things start kind of coming out of the body, he's just gonna almost like be slashing at them, slash the body, like almost like trying to carve them up. He said a +4, so be an 8.
8 to hit.
Yep.
That is exactly their AC, so he smashes into them with his sword. Roll the damage.
He said 2d8, right?
Yeah, I think that's what the swordsman is. 2d8, and we're just doing a +2 for him since he's level 1.
So 7 total.
Gotcha. That'll be slashing, which they still kind of like resist against because there's a bunch of little ones. You do kind of notice like they pop a little bit better with the bludgeoning. But slashing, so another, was that 4 damage? Got a total of like 13. So they're kind of half strength here. They are gonna go looking like you. And they will no modifier to hit. So this roll beats your AC, they will hit. 6 is a miss. You can just kind of see as they're like almost like crawling up your like leg where you kind of kicked into them, and they almost have like a circular maw, and you can kind of like see as they're trying to like start to like grind into your leg, and they're cutting away at the leather, but at present not making their way into your flesh. Another attack from your torch.
Yeah, I think he'll keep going with that.
11 will hit.
Looks like 1 bludgeoning, 4 fire.
Yeah, with that fire damage, you're going to kind of consuming like the last of all of these, like the ones that have exploded from like the first attack. Little bit more bludgeoning as you're like smashing into them, like they're almost like boiling into each other, and with a little bit of like kind of like sizzle, they're just like popping, kind of like popcorn. Only they're like exploding into these like white, juicy, like milk pustules, before kind of like last few moments calming for a second. You don't see any more writhing from the body. You don't see any more movement around this place. That seems to be all of these things.
Yeah, so I think Dem is kind of having seen these things kind of erupt. He's going to be very tentative and almost like kind of like holding the torch and almost like burning, like almost holding it into the cavity, like just to make sure. Um,
Gotcha, like going over this body, making sure a little bit more. Do a medicine check for me.
Yep. Straight 18.
Yeah, like investigating a little bit closer, you find like more and more of these. Not so many that they can actually swarm around you, but like this whole body is being like has been like started to turn into these things as you kind of gain a sense like maybe one of these like maggot like creatures can turn into like 10 and 10 turn into like 50. It's a pretty frightening kind of moment to kind of like recognize like the inside of this person has turned to this like milky pus that these things create, and you can just like take a few minutes here and burn away the last of them. But be a pretty horrific creature to kind of come into contact with, to kind of like eventually see that this like warrior who's dead, like on the floor, there's like one single wound on like one of like part of their wrist that seems to be like a circular wound, that kind of like gives you a clue. This might have been a single particular wound, or like open sore that started it all.
Yeah. So as like Dem is doing this, he might like be kind of almost like trying to hold in the vomit, um, like kind of thinking like, there, but for the grace of the gods go I, my guys. Um, but once he's kind of somewhat sure that he thinks he's burned them all away, he would probably search the body, um, just to see if like they've um, uh, left anything, I guess.
So, kind of confirming that you've gotten the last of these things. You do see signs that this person's like backpack is underneath their body. The person is wearing plate mail. That while is certainly damaged, it seems like they've been attacked by many like bludgeoning weapons. Like the plate mail is definitely banged up. It's one of those questions of it's likely serviceable. A lot of like the leather is damaged where you would have to kind of repair it, but there is a certain sense where plate mail itself is a very valuable thing. Even in the worst of scenarios, you know, you could potentially get hundreds of gold for it. It weighs a lot, though. You can kind of spot that the, let's see, person has like a long sword that's kind of like just south of you. They have a shield that's like still attached to their other arm, although I think in the picture it's kind of sitting across their legs. Um, and yeah, if you went through the pack, you would basically recognize there is essentially an explorer's pack beneath their corpse, just without rations and without any water.
Yeah, so I think yeah, Dem would maybe feeling a little bit bad about it, but would kind of move to take the strip the pack. Uh, Briff would probably make some mention of the armor, that it might be able to be worth something, but um, given what we're here for, Dalton, Dem would probably, uh, yeah, we can, yeah, we can strip him and take his stuff later. But Um, and maybe to placate Briff, he would suggest we look through these wine racks and see if there's anything worth taking from them while we're in here.
So if I understood right, you are kind of thinking about leaving the armor for right now. So maybe Brifford's kind of thinking, if your uncle ran in fear, perhaps we should carry what we can, and if danger overwhelms us, we have what we have when we flee. Basically to say, like, if you want to take the armor but you don't want to hold the weight, um, part of paying a sidekick and part of him taking half of what you get, basically, also kind of includes, like, he can bear some of the weight too.
Yeah. Well, I was more thinking like plate armor is heavy as that's heavy stuff. And maybe we can come back for it later. We know it's down here now. Uh,
Yeah,
you know,
that's my perspective, though, from his idea, though. If it's worth taking, he'll carry it right now for you. It's not going to encumber him like it would encumber you.
yeah, and in that case, yeah, then he would, we would, might as well strip it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Are you taking anything else? Like, are you taking sword, shield, anything from the explorer's pack?
Probably the other stuff from the explorer's pack, but not the weapons. I don't know. You said no rations, no water, but um,
And honestly, I
torches.
mean, I think it's also perfectly fine if there's like, if you want an extra water skin, just to say there's no water in it right now.
So he would grab that stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Roll an investigation as you look over like the wine bottles and you try to see if any are still filled.
Straightforward.
Yeah, I think kind of looking around the place, maybe with enough hesitancy, like wondering if you're going to see any more of these like slug-like creatures coming after you. You do like a quick little look. Nothing on the rack still has any liquid in it. You don't really see any signs that any of the bottles on the ground are intact enough, and you feel like having basically stripped like the corpse, you've got what you've got from down here. Doesn't seem like there's anything else.
Yeah. So kind of having done that search and having kind of Dan will suggest we head back upstairs.
Oh man, I made a mistake. Roll a perception check for me. Yeah, my bad. When you stepped on the top of the stairs, I'm gonna retcon it because you're not gonna see it again here. When you stepped on the top of the stairs and you heard all of those screams, this is the magic mouth spell. I didn't actually realize you're supposed to see a mouth appears on, I guess, the top stair. I don't think you can make it not happen. So there's going to be a mouth that you can see, and it appears to be screaming. It seems like a very weird thing to like use it to try to frighten you out of this place, but there's clearly like a mouth that appears. I don't know, kind of weird. But when you walk back up the stairs and walk back into, I think it's called the skullduggery room, the same thing does not happen again. Like that spell was like consumed. My bad. Do you know what I mean there?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I got you.
So I think that's going to be one of those things that kind of might turn like the first scream. You kind of wonder if that was kids outside. The second scream that you heard, you might be like, oh, I guess the. You might like wonder for a second, like if this place actually is haunted before you like look around and you actually see the mouth. That I think, might be worth saying take an arcana check for it. But I think as a magical user, and I think magical mouth can be used by a bard. So I don't think it's a lot to say that you recognize like this is probably like a humanoid is trying to keep people out of this place. These footprints might be a sign that people are using this place. Um, but yeah, as you guys kind of go back out, you basically know like there's tracks of these footprints from the front door. You've got the stairs up to the next level inside of the kitchen. You have the eastern wing of the house, or the stairs up to the second level from that entryway.
Yeah, and Dem has seen like the kind of alchemical. Yeah, even they can't make them out. So yeah, makes sense that he knows like maybe there's some sort of magic here about. But I think he would kind of coming back up and having seen the footsteps heading up, he would suggest that we head that way. So we would head to the foot of the stairs.
My bad, those aren't footsteps.
Oh, but if we were coming out here and there are steps leading up, he probably would suggest we head upstairs anyway.
Gotcha. In the day of actually like drawing maps, those three bars like that are just a way of telling you which one goes up and which one goes down. It's always like down when you get to a smaller line. That's why I drew those on all of the stairs there. Was the kind of show like this one was up, it goes from smaller to larger, and then going like down into the basement, it goes from larger to smaller. That's what I was trying to get there. The footsteps was just to show like from the entryway they led to there. I that was admittedly a poor choice to like do in the same color. So if we move from the kitchen up to the second flight, it's going to take a second to load. I'm going to drop Dem in when you can. I'm going to drop Brifford in when you can drop Dem in. You are welcome to. but you're gonna kind of see, what is it? I should reveal part of the hallway here. Kind of come up and you'll see that there's a hallway along like the eastern side of the house. Um, I think for what it's worth, you can kind of see almost all the way down. Might be a little bit to say because you're like lowest when you could see that way, but it won't take long for you guys to be exploring this little kind of like end corridor to recognize that like these stairs lead down to the kitchen. The end hallway has like a broken staircase that seems to lead up to the next level. But the staircase is broken at the bottom part of it. So, oh wait, no, the staircase is broken at the top part of it. So it goes from like the south to the north as it like climbs up into the attic. So if you had a way to kind of make like the last, say, like 8 or so feet in vertical altitude, you could climb up into the attic like rafters. But otherwise, there's no stairway up there from here. And you have the hall that leads down with two different doors, one about halfway, and then one door that's like immediately opposite the last of those windows before you get to like the cross of the halls.
Yeah, I think Dem will head for the first doorway.
So this room seems to have a lot of evidence that it was like storage at some point. You can see a lot of different like chests and like detritus kind of like sitting around. Broken like chairs, broken buckets. There's like mildew, some clothing. All of it kind of smells more of the mildew than like the kind of mildew of the wood around this place. But there's definitely a solid like kind of reek to this room. You can certainly explore around, but at present, maybe a broken chest in the corner that might be of interest. But other than that, it kind of would be almost like somebody's dirty laundry was thrown here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Dem. He's also thinking like, okay, what my uncle had been looking through. Um, yeah, so he'd probably be drawn towards the broken chest.
So looking a little bit closer at it, doesn't seem to be anything of note. There's still like a little bit of the metal from when it was whole. Seems like maybe a vagabond or somebody has already come through and kind of like broken it to pieces and gone through and like found what might be like of interest.
So seeing that, um, and maybe thinking that if somebody wanted to hide something, maybe they'd hide something in somewhere people wouldn't want to look. He might go to move and start kind of rifling through this kind of pile of refuse here.
Gotcha. So just kind of looking through the rest of this room, and in part because I want to like actually get you all the way through this. There's nothing left in this room that seems to be of interest. There's a little bit of clothing in here that's like less mildewed, but for what it's worth, everything in here just seems to be trash to you as you go through the room.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you will move back out into the corridor and head towards the next room, the next door.
Gotcha. I'm gonna have some issue at some point here with my Bluetooth headset. Both of them said low battery at the same time. So as you pop into this room, you'll see like I think it's meant to be a little bit of a bed, kind of like set in the center. Um, Definitely damp, definitely mold covered around this area. Seems like a larger bedroom. Little bits of stuffing. Yep, my earphone just went out. Large wooden chest in the corner. The timbers split and its lid closed.
Yeah, I feel like that will definitely draw Dem's attention.
Gotcha. Roll a investigation here.
Straight five.
So you've got inspiration. This is like a chest in front of you. Do you want to use it?
Uh, that's a good point. Yes, I will use it. uh,
The dice never lie. So popping it open, you see some more of these notes with some more of these obscure symbols on it. They might be interesting because you recognize them as like alchemical, but you don't actually make out anything about what they mean.
I think if there are notes, yeah, I think kind of he will grab them. Um,
But yeah,
maybe
otherwise that'll kind of satisfy like this room more or less having gone through.
yeah, he'll kind of grab them, kind of shove them in his pack, let Brick go. You know, probably nothing, but I don't know, maybe, but um, we'll continue on down the corridor.
Gotcha. So getting to the like overlook over the like balcony area into the entryway, there's a much stronger kind of sense of the actual like smell of mildew in this area, and you can't really place why. It's hard to kind of recognize, but you're kind of like looking down hallways in either direction that kind of lead to the end of the house. You can basically see to like all four corners of the house. This is just one of the strongest areas where like it just smells like rotten wood. You've got three doors to the east, two doors to the west. The doors to the west are kind of like equally spread out, so there's just as much wall, like on either side of the doors for like the three parts of wall. Basically, there's a door immediately opposite those two windows, and then there's another door kind of partway down. And then on the other side of the east side of the hall, I bet I can reveal this as well. You can kind of see down all that stuff to the next level. Um, you can see those doors are similarly kind of space making, like four parts of walls. Maybe like the center room is a little bit smaller than the others, but they're probably like vaguely kind of three equalish parts. What is it? The last door is opposite to the last window on the east side. The other two doors are like with the window like immediately opposite them.
Yeah, so thinking his uncle is the type to yeah, let's investigate the creepy downstairs. Dalton will kind of with a nod towards Briff move towards um this way down here and
So as you start to walk across that, your foot's gonna go through the floor. I need you to roll a dexterity saving throw, please.
19 total.
Gotcha. So like catching yourself with the banister, your like waist kind of like going through the floor. You don't like cut yourself where you're getting injured, but like your legs are falling through like comic relief in I don't know if you've ever seen like the Money Pit. Could have damn it, I moved Briff. Could have been like a fatal fall had you not like kind of caught yourself against the wood, and you can like feel that banister is like ready to give way. You had just enough resistance to like not fall through the floor here. But basically, Briff's gonna have to like jump over this kind of gap in the floor where the floor is just kind of fallen out of this area.
Gotcha. So am I on this side or the other side of
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, you've got to crawl out regardless. There's no reason if you want to go to the east, not to crawl out to the east, kind of thing.
all right. Well,
Oh, I should have had you roll that. I'm rolling as I almost roll a one. Roll an athletics check to have him jump over it. Yeah, taking a little bit. Oh man, the alt duplication gets me. He'll like take a little bit of a run up, make a little bit of a leap over. You hear like the clink of all of the armor, like the plate mail in his backpack as he lands beside you. You've got the stairs back down towards the entry where you all came in, or you've got those 3 rooms ahead.
plus my uncle's a lot heavier than I remembered him. But there's another one on the other side. He's actually going to move towards the door on the far side of the room before moving down the stairs.
So another fireplace in the west side of the room. Um, Again, technically the bedroom where you found the alchemical notes. There's like a fireplace almost like north of where Brifford was. Um, but like looking down into that room, there's no furniture, there's rubbish, there's webs. Uh you can see a glint of light. It doesn't seem right inside of the fireplace though as you're looking down into the room.
Yeah, he will definitely be drawn to that.
Roll a perception as you kind of investigate into the fireplace.
6.
Gotcha. So after a moment, you like start to see maybe like your torch was catching like a little bit of like the movement of these spiders inside of them, as again like spiders are going to kind of like start to swarm out towards you. Roll for initiative again.
Ugh. 4.
Gotcha. This time they're gonna go before you. Um, they're gonna go after Brifford. Gonna swarm around him, starting to like bite into 16. Settle on the 11. They're gonna seem to damn it. They're gonna seem to like bite into his armor. And it's gonna go back around to you. He's got his armor on him. You've got a torch on you. It worked relatively well, but do you have any other thoughts on how to get rid of these spiders?
Let's see. I'm gonna try the dissonant whispers. Almost like your praise elsewhere, kind of almost like telling them to like, that's not the one you want.
Uh, wisdom saving throw.
Yes, wisdom 13.
I hate how slow these dice are, and I think it's just me for some reason. But yeah, they're gonna fail that. Did you roll 1 damage?
So 3, 6.
Oh, what's that one from? Was that a D20 roll?
That was my initiative roll.
Okay, you're inspired again then.
So a total of 10 psychic damage.
Gotcha. And you can move more if you'd like. Otherwise, roll to attack with Brifford, kind of swiping at them with his sword.
All right, nat 20.
I mean, 4d8 plus 2, and your psychic attack, you're just going to wipe these things out. That's frightening. So, decimating the last of these little spiders. Um, You could search again if you thought you saw something that wasn't just the spiders inside of that. Otherwise, pretty much this room, kind of looking around, there's like scattered trash around here. Doesn't seem to be anything of interest, though.
Yeah, I think having dealt with those spiders, best to yeah, Clinton was nothing. He would kind of retreat, and we haven't seen anything that suggests. Hmm. Um,
You haven't seen anything that suggests. What are you thinking there?
well, his uncle is not quite. I'm thinking his uncle is not an adventurer. So if he,
Well,
if he
hold up
kind
here.
of,
maybe you should start to rethink that idea. Like, this might be kind of one of those moments where you're starting to wonder, like, do I not actually know my uncle? Like, he came to a place like hunting after a serial killer, lost some sort of item that he seems to talk like it's some crazy magical item. This place seems dangerous to you, and he came out alive, so maybe he's more than you thought.
Okay, okay, gotcha. Yeah, yep. Yeah. So in that case, yeah, having moved will, yeah, Dem will move on towards the next door.
What was that thought though that you were thinking before when you were saying my uncle's not an adventurer? What were you thinking?
So when the floor, where the place of the floor gave way, I was thinking, well, if somebody hadn't got across that, it wouldn't have collapsed, and so maybe they had gone off the other way.
Gotcha. Roll a perception for me here. So this top floor, like, there's a lot more of a smell of kind of the mildew about this place. And while you now have kind of like come across perhaps a little bit of why you were smelling it so strong before, you can almost kind of smell some of the fresh air from these windows, and you can also smell like a strong sense of the mildew, even though like the windows are drawing air over your face and then behind you down this hall. And it kind of gives you a little bit more of a sense that there's potentially still dangerous mildew ahead in this area as well. Um, but as you're kind of like looking around and trying to track down like where the air is coming from, you notice there's no dust across that windowsill. It's just a little bit further ahead of you and to the left. There's actually like signs of like almost scratches, something kind of like gouging at the wood almost. Not necessarily like an animal, just kind of like something hard basically against something soft.
Yeah. So yeah, Dem will look to move to investigate that. He's also thinking like, how all right, how did my uncle, if he was in here, how did he escape?
So moving closer to the windowsill, you can see something maybe like 3 or 4 inches like diameter, maybe has kind of like cut into that window a little bit or cut into the sill a little bit. Um, do you carry a lantern? No, you've got torches, and bards, I think, start with candles normally.
Yeah, we just have candles and torches. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you probably can't recognize immediately that that's like lantern marks, but you do see that there is a small golden key that's sitting like on the corner of that windowsill. It's tarnished. It's not like a shiny bright gold. It could be copper, but there is a key sitting there.
I am going to reach out to grab that key. and also looking to see if there is a lock on that window that it actually that it fits.
Probably looking around you, you'd see like most of these doors, the doorknobs have locks on them. None of them have been locked. Um, I think maybe it's viable to say that the windows have locks on them. Perhaps those are a little bit more like an actual lever that you flip than necessarily like a lock with a key. But I don't really know what really wealthy kind of say Victorian era windows would be like.
Gotcha. So yeah, he would definitely, yeah, definitely take that key, definitely show it to his companion, and then yeah, move towards this door here.
Gotcha. So, oh man, are you moving like Brifford back and going to the next door, or are you like going? Which door do you mean? This door?
Is there a door right to the south of?
Oh, my bad. You can't fully see them. Yeah, there was basically one immediately opposite that window, and then there's a door like right between you and Brifford right now.
Um, yeah, so I guess the one between us.
Gotcha. I love this style of fog of war, but it 100% is the thing. Once I place them, I can't actually adjust that to recognize like, oh shit, you can't see that door. So pushing open this door, blast of mildew smell, like you can smell rot coming out of this room. You can pretty quickly see that there are weaker points to the boards on kind of the right side of the wall, or what is it, on your left side of the wall as you kind of look in. Um, as far as the room goes, I think there's probably a. Yeah, I think this room is gonna look pretty empty. Yeah, I think once you kind of push in, doesn't really seem to have anything of note. You can see that a large part of the floor looks rotten, and it would definitely kind of bring in the question like if this room is safe to go into.
But it doesn't look as if the rotten wood has been like dropped through, like somebody has walked onto it and fallen through, right?
Correct. Yep. Still basically a whole floor. You can just kind of smell the rot in the room more than anything.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, yeah. So Dan will suggest we maybe try and leap back across the kind of the where the wall, where the floor has fallen through, and keep investigating.
Gotcha. You've got one more door across from that window to your east. You don't want to check that?
Oh, yes, would check that. Sorry, I didn't see it in the map. Um, yes, no, Delt. Dem would definitely want to check that before we continue on.
I bet. I felt like I psyched you out because I just wanted to ask between it last time, and then you like ignored it there. So this one is going to be a pretty similar situation. As you open up this door, you're going to see again the floor immediately in front of you is like rotten. You can see that it goes like underneath and through that wall, almost like looking up towards the attic, and you can kind of spot like signs that like water is coming down from the roof above. The blast of mildew kind of flying out of this room is going to be horrendous, but there's also the smell of filth. It smells like human, it smells like urine, smells like everything that your uncle's kind of room smelled like, is you found somebody who is bedridden, and you see in the corner of this room there is a human, probably maybe like mid 30s or 40s, slender build, maybe 5 or 6 feet tall. She seems absolutely filthy. It is a young woman. She's like chained up against the wall, and yeah, kind of like chained to. Oh, I should have had something in the room to be chained to, but she's chained to it.
like a pipe or yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's enough to say she's just like, say she's like chained hand and foot. So like she's almost like perpetually like um reaching her hands to her ankles kind of thing, that she can't actually like get upright at all. Almost like permanently doubled over. Kind of like flinching as the door opens, almost like expecting something like to be thrown at her or something. You see after a moment of like nothing happening, she starts to like slowly like look up towards you. Go on, have at it. What do you want this time?
So I think Dan would be quite kind of surprised at what he sees. He would kind of immediately head in, um, maybe trying to make his way over towards the woman in chains. Not exactly, probably sure of how solid the floor is, um, but he would be trying to get over towards her and calling for Biff as he did, essentially. Like he's also thinking of like the one we say back in the bugbear, you know, uh, back in the bugbear, the
In the rat,
caves,
in the
caverns.
rat hold, yeah.
Yeah,
Roll a. You can do like sleight of hand while you're walking over, or roll investigation to try to like plot yourself on the boards. I feel like sleight of hand might be a little bit more that you're moving before you're thinking. Investigation might be a little bit more thinking before you're moving.
definitely moving before he's thinking. So I almost feel like that should be like a just a straight perception check. But
Yeah, I mean, you could do that too. Perception would work enough.
which would be a straight 14.
Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable for me to kind of recognize like more footsteps towards the wall, the better. That you can kind of like follow that route more or less directly to her. Briff kind of looks over the room and is like, I can carry her. I don't know if the floor would support us or me.
Well, figure out some way. What's your name? How did you
Neither.
come here? How did you come to be here?
I was looking for a place to sleep, and I was in the room with the bedroom. Uh, she'll just say like, I was in the room with the bed. I remember hearing a sound, and then the next time I woke up, I was bound in here. I keep coming to. Food has been left. Things have been thrown at me. You're the first person I've seen.
You haven't seen, and then we'll mention his uncle. Like, he didn't. You haven't seen him.
He's here too. We should go. Something is wrong with this place. If he's not with us, he's in danger.
He is. He came in here. He was. You haven't seen, and he will describe like the periapt that his uncle had left. Like, you haven't seen um this item.
Just trinkets aren't worth our lives. Please help me. We should go. Not worth whatever cost to replace it. It's right what they said about this place. There's a witch here.
Yeah. So Dem is going to kind of feels like he should stay. He came here to help his uncle, but now he stumbled across this person seemingly in need, and he is going to try to help her. All right, well, all right, yeah, he's gonna try and help her and get her out of here.
How do you think you can help her out of like this immediate situation? Right now, she's still like bound.
Oh, if she is bound in like ropes, he would try to break her.
No,
So
like metal manacles, like manacles around her ankles and around her wrists.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, I guess he would try to break. Uh, yeah, he can't really. He has no thieves tools, but I guess he would try to break the chains a little more. Maybe like smash them open with a weapon, or
Roll an intelligence for me.
so I think that's a as a straight.
Was that a 14?
11.
11? Gotcha. So yeah, you just picked up a key.
Oh, yes, I will try that. I didn't realize there was a key to her locks.
As you're like trying to like force open these manacles, she's like looking at you with like just like a dry expression on her face, and she just, you can't break metal with your hands. You're far too weak. I need a key. A key. And like in like the dawning moment of I just picked up a key. You take a second and snap, first manacle comes off. This is the key to her bindings. And you can release her. The two of you can slowly kind of make your footsteps out of this room, back towards the edge, or back towards the center of the hall. She'll immediately kind of like look to you guys, like towards those stairs and towards escape. We must leave. Do you want to push on, try to leap over the hole again? Or are you thinking about heeding her warning about this place being haunted and leaving?
Yeah. So yeah, Dem is torn about. He wants to, kind of find a thing for his father, but now he has this woman. Yeah, he's going to try to help this woman out with the idea of coming back later.
Gotcha. So if you making that choice, it's risk your uncle's life to help her, or perhaps try to sell what you've already found to try to pay for a healer to help him.
Yeah, not sure how much maybe like the uh, the armor that Briff collected might do. Yeah, he wants to save this, try and save this woman, but he also realized, like, all right, if I can't find the item that my uncle needs, I need 500 gold to. But I think like he is going to, in the moment, try and save this woman.
Gotcha. So you all are not far from the exit. When you make make your way down the stairs, out the front door, you all can quickly kind of find yourself with the fresh air of the sea coming in over the house again, over your flesh. You kind of feel like almost the like calming of like dry like sea air instead of like the moist stagnant air, like the moldy air from being inside of that place. And just kind of like feel as your hearing comes alive and you start to hear like the hustle and bustle of the city around you. You can already hear kind of like people yelling off in the distance. You can smell food, you can smell sea, you can smell the salt in the air again. And it's a nice kind of calming moment. Um, and yeah, we'll kind of call it here as you all basically like leave and start to head back off. Um, Maybe towards the setting sun. And at some point, the two of you, Brifford and yourself, are just going to notice this woman disappeared. She's not with you anymore. And we'll pick up sometime next time you play with these guys to figure out if you can save your uncle's life.
Yeah, I was almost also thinking like, as we escape out of here, although I guess it would be kind of weird now that she's disappeared, but he's almost like, you know, we need a cleric. I know your secret. You come heal you gotta come heal my uncle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely keep that in mind. On some level, that cleric does kind of owe you a favor as is, so you have that potential to blackmail him, or at least like that's the type of thing. Like, I mean, I'll try to keep that in my notes so I can try to remind you. But yeah, that's a solid thing for the next time you play a mission is to consider those two, and also like the illness of your uncle.
Yeah, yeah.
And part of that will be we're gonna actually see if your uncle's still alive. It was definitely meant to be like the recognition that he's on death's door. Um, Theoretically, going in that house might have been a chance to save him, but even then, it wasn't necessarily a given. So we'll have to see. Like, I'm not trying to like scold you for making the choice of saving somebody who apparently needs help. But it is one of those things to always recognize. Your choices are always going to matter. And there's some things that you can do and some things that you can't.
Oh yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that question of,